All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starkey Media Studios with my guy, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
Episode 272 is in full swing, full motion. We're so happy to be here with you and for you to be here with us. Whether you're live streaming, podcasting, or YouTube, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this time as we have one hell of a show for you guys today. We're going to keep things tidy. We're going to keep things clean because we know we got a lot going, or you guys have a lot of things going on probably on your Saturday. This is the weekend, it's the summertime, you and the kids go out, go to the pool, birthday parties, whatever you guys might have going on. But we need to get a show in because we got some stuff to talk about. We have, obviously, you guys know that we give you guys the opportunity every single show. We tell you the top, we tell you the bottom of every single show. If you've not already done it, go to youtube.com. Go to the Spoken Podcast. Go and hit subscribe, like, share, all that fun stuff. We very much appreciate every single one of you that have done that so far. We will definitely appreciate every single one of you that will do that after this. But after you get all done with all that stuff, get in the comments, get in the live chat, because we want to hear from you. We want your takes, comments, questions, and concerns. Whatever you have for us today in the world of sports, drop it in the chat, and we will get to you guys as soon as humanly possible. We promise you we want you to be as interactive with the show, as much of a part of the show as Trevor and myself are. And we have a segment called Speak It, where we dedicate that entire segment to your questions. But throughout the show, if you have a take, it doesn't have to be a question. If it's something you want to say or you disagree with something we're saying during the show, drop it on the show. We will get it on the screen, and we will talk about it if we're right in the middle of that conversation, whatever it is. We could literally stop everything we're doing and talk about it if Trevor and I see fit. It's all about, like I say, the community. It's all about talking, and we want to make sure you guys feel as a part of the show as possible. We also have a great guest today, a guy that's been on the show a dozen times, one of our best friends, one of my best friends in real life too, the co-host of Chief Concerns with Jason Dunn, our buddy, our pal, our amigo, Mr. Marcus Dash, will be joining us in about 30 minutes time. So we obviously got some L's to hand out at the beginning of every single show like we do every single time. We don't want to waste any more of your time. Trevor, how the hell are you doing this week, man?
Doing great, man. It's the summer is officially here. It's hot as hell outside already. Been a long week at work. Obviously, I work in the heat, so it's not been friendly. It's been a sweaty one, but it's good to be here, man. I always enjoy waking up on my Saturdays and getting some caffeine in the morning and then preparing for the show and looking forward to it, man. So one weekend closer to some Chiefs football, bro. So
shout out to Lonnie Pyramid, Dustin Orton, Chief Concerns are obviously already in the chat. They're ready to go. Ruben DeCruz. Shout out to everybody that's already in the chat. Tell your friends, guys. Tell them to join because that's what we're about. We're here to talk. We're here to have fun. So, Trevor, without further ado, it is time for Lance Rants.
Gotta scream! Yeah! We've got corrosion! But I'm gonna do me!
So, we know that this offseason has been a rather particularly interesting one for the Chiefs, both positively and negatively, obviously coming off the highs of back-to-back Super Bowl championships. And then you have a lot of negatives where, we don't know what's going to happen with Rashee Rice due to multiple scandals off the field. Other players like Bugs, these guys just asking to be released from the team. Wanya Morris having a no big deal weed charge against him that I think is just going to be brushed away. But there's been some distractions here and there off the field for the Chiefs. And there's, like I said, there's been some good stuff. You see the ring ceremony and everybody's feeling good. Travis Kelce's doing his thing, living his life. Patrick Mahomes living his life. Everybody's just kind of having basically making the most of this offseason. And, I've been kind of just sitting back over the last couple of weeks, kind of not taking a break, but I've just been kind of enjoying this a little bit because I haven't really had a lot to really burn on this offseason. There's still things I'm worried about, and you guys obviously know when it comes to the wide receiver room, when it comes to the running back room, when it comes to certain things, I will talk about it. I will televise it out there, and I'll put it out there. But then sometimes there are things that are going on with this team that I'm actually not sure about. And I will sit back and kind of just let it play out before I really develop an opinion, because the one thing I do not want to do is give you guys a faulty or fraudulent opinion on something that I haven't either studied on or I'm not prepared to give you an opinion on. This week, I was talking to our guy Marcus Dash we were sitting there on the phone just kind of going over some stuff. We weren't even talking about this show. We were just kind of catching up on some stuff that, him and his show have been, experiencing. And, the funny thing about the offseason when it comes to Chiefs content, because we can't speak for other fan bases, is it always seems to be it's the fringe players. It's the guys that people don't really know about, that's all people want to talk about. We know over these last 2 years, it's been nothing but Justin Ross this and Justin Ross that, because everyone is so enamored by this potential of this wide receiver out of Clemson that's really done next to nothing in his NFL career to this point. Yep. But everybody wants to talk Justin Ross, and so the Chiefs know that, so they're posting videos of him ad nauseum at training camp last year, and you're seeing it already this year. And now Nico Remigio, a guy that we've been touting here a lot on this show for the last 2 years, is getting that shine as well. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But there's also another aspect to this team that I think that needs to be addressed, and I think it's time for Trevor and I to do so, and it's perfect timing as well because we have our guy Marcus Dash on, and this is something that him, Marcus Dash, Jason Dunn, and Tasia Dash have been talking on Chief Concerns a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, and it's about Luis Rees-Zammit. And I think, you know what? Damn it, it's time to talk Zammit. Nice. I think it's time that Trevor and I give you guys at least a preliminary take or a preliminary opinion on what we think Zammit is going to be, if anything, for this team. And he's the guy that I've intentionally kind of stayed away from because I'll be totally honest with you guys. I don't know if this guy's even a real football player. We know he's a great rugby player. We know he's super popular in Europe. We know that
gifted.
If I'm not mistaken, we're going to clarify this with Marcus because I wanted to make sure this is true. I think he even told me on the phone conversation we had just 2 days ago. If I'm not mistaken, Zammit has the second or third highest selling NFL jersey in Europe right now. I mean, it's insane how popular this guy is. And I try to imagine, because I was telling Marcus on the phone, it's kind of like imagine like a cricket player coming and playing for the Yankees. Something that big, playing for a team that marketable. That's what the Chiefs are now for the NFL. They're the Yankees of the NFL. The most marketable team right now, best team in the NFL with the most recognizable faces. And this guy from Europe who's this badass rugby player is not only joining the league, which doesn't happen very often, but is now joining the league, and he's trying to make it on a team that is hoping to three-peat as NFL champions. Yep. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to give the people an opinion on this. And you guys know how I am, the people that have been around for a long time. And those of you who haven't, you're going to learn really quickly. I am a big historian when it comes to sports, when it comes to life, because if there's one thing we know about history, it does tend to repeat itself. Life is very, everything kind of revolves around itself. Everything kind of comes around. What goes around comes around. That's a very true statement. And I believe that history repeats itself a lot of times when it comes to the trends in sports. And we've seen a handful of guys come from rugby and join the NFL. And I guarantee you that most of you don't even know who they are. And there's a reason for that. So the other names that I was able to dig up, the other former rugby players that have joined the NFL, guys by the name Christian Wade, Hayden Smith, Daniel Adongo, Alex Gray, and then Christian Scotland Williamson. Those are 5 guys that were able to make it on an NFL roster at some point of their lives. The reason why you guys probably don't know much, if anything, about these guys is because of the fact that combined, these 5 players played a total of 7 games of real NFL football. Now, I'm not here to tell you guys that because of these previous 5 players having little to no success in the NFL, that means that Zammit can't do it. What I am saying, though, is that because of what we've seen from the ones that came before Zammit, I can say comfortably that I have the right to the opinion that is what I'm expecting from Zammit. Would I love nothing more than to see this guy turn into some badass, gimmicky player where the Chiefs can use him on, some what's the guy's name, sure, from the Saints that we love to watch, that's the jack of all trades, number 7.
Taysom Hill.
Yeah, like, would I love to see him turn into like a Taysom Hill type of guy,
man,
where
yeah.
he can kick, he does the kickoff, and then he does like a toss sweep, a touchdown throw to somebody in the back of the end zone, or runs it in. Like, I would love to see that guy become something like this. And if he's ever going to turn into something like that, it's going to be here in Kansas City.
Sure.
Like, this is the perfect spot for Zammit to turn into something in this league. But does that mean that we should expect or anticipate that happening? No. Now, I know that's going to piss a lot of people off, because I know this guy, again, is one of those dudes that everybody wants to talk about. And we know that in Kansas City, we know in this fan base, everybody's expecting somebody to turn into something. But that is just not the realities of this league. Guys, you have to understand, guys that have played this game since they were toddlers have less than a 1% chance of making the NFL. And we're talking about talented dudes. We're not talking about some dude that played pickup football for a few years and decided to try to go and make it. I'm talking about dudes that their parents paid their ways through all the Pop Warners and all these special systems and got them special trainings, got the best coaches, and they had athletic ability, and they still didn't make it.
Yeah.
These are guys that spent decades molding and shaping themselves into something, whereas Zammit has been something completely different and is now trying to become what those guys worked for 20 years to become. It doesn't work like that more times than it does. And I'm somebody that is willing to be proven wrong, as always. Someone that's willing to sit here and say, I would love to see Zammit turn into an NFL player, turn into something that is legitimate in this league, a guy that is an actual contributor on this team, even if it comes down to just special teams, where he's a guy that goes out there and makes a big tackle on special teams, blow up hit on a kick return, blow up hit on a punt return that results in a fumble recovery. Like, if that's what he becomes, he's a success story, and I will celebrate him. Hell, we might even get his fucking jersey here. We might hang it up behind me, and I'm not even a jersey guy. But if this dude turns into a football player, a real football player that helps a 3-time, 4-time historically, but 3-time in this era Super Bowl winner, helps them contribute to another Super Bowl victory, that is a success story. But at this time, at this place, you can hate me, you can dislike me, or you can just flat out disagree with me. I'm not expecting that to come from Zammit. I'm not expecting him to be a guy that makes this roster. But if he does, you best believe he's going to be one of the most marketable players from a global perspective in the entire league. And I'm not saying that hyperbolically, because like I said, we will have our guy Marcus Dash confirm this when he gets on the show in about a little over 15 minutes.
The international fame is different.
We know that this Chiefs team's played in the international football, has played several international football games over the last 10 years, and that's only going to continue to grow. We know the NFL wants to continue to expand. If you have a former rugby player on a 2-time back-to-back Super Bowl winning team playing overseas, you better believe that dude's jerseys are going to be all over that fucking arena.
Yeah.
All over that stadium. So I'm rooting for him because I think the story would be unbelievably great. And this would be a locker room that can handle it. Because we all know that Tyreek Hill wanted to be the guy. He couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle that Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce were more famous than him, and there was nothing he could do about that. So inevitably, he wanted out. This team can handle a guy like Zammit. If he becomes a star internationally by some crazy stretch of the imagination, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are going to embrace the shit out of that. Chris Jones is going to embrace the shit out of that. You better believe the coaching staff is going to embrace the shit out of that.
Yeah.
This is the right room for that type of thing to happen. So I'm rooting for it to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen. Trevor, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, and to your point about rugby players and not succeeding in the NFL and the history of that, Chiefs Kelsey in the chat says Jordan Mailata, which is true. Jordan Mailata was it. Well, he did play professional rugby for a short stint before he entered in the league. But I think you're leaning more towards like the offensive skill players that have just because that's really what that skill really translates. Jordan Mailata is kind of an outlier with that. I mean, him being a lineman is a whole different kind of an expectation, if you will.
Right.
We're expecting this guy to be, a weapon because they immediately were talking about his speed, his agility, and things like that.
Right.
How he's got good hands and all these things. So, I mean, Jordan Mailata, just are you big and strong? Are you agile for your size? Him being a rugby player just kind of added to that transition seems a little more seamless than becoming a true NFL weapon offensively. That's a whole, or even on special teams, that's a whole other type of expectation. Jordan Mailata obviously has thrived at his position. But to the Zammit conversation, I'm keeping my expectations low. I haven't heard too much or seen too much of him. As far as news and what he's going to be, what his purpose is going to be on this roster. I'm excited. I mean, it's the mystery of it is kind of exciting. Could he be like a hybrid running back type guy? I think that's what they initially brought him in for. Honestly, that's what I heard. I heard Andy Reid was talking about, using him as like a hybrid kind of running back, maybe McCaffrey light kind of role, which is exciting in this offense. I mean, you put a guy like that in this offense that can. I think he ran like just a little over a 4.3 something. He was very fast. So, and he's got a good stature. He's a solid kid. Can bang. Obviously, you play rugby, you're tough as shit. I mean, that's just the nature of that game. So that guy can, I'm sure he can take a beating, can run through guys, I'm sure. So I'm excited to see what he can do, especially in the the return game or the special teams game. As a running back or like a hybrid, quick slant receiver kind of guy, just get the ball in his hands, see what he can do. But I think that's really it. My expectations are really low. No, there's a lot of hype internationally on this kid, obviously, with the like you said, the jersey sales being so high. I think they really want to see this kid succeed. And I think the fact that he's on the Chiefs just adds so much more to that popularity and the idea of him becoming a star in this offense and this team. But like I said, man, my expectations are low. I think he does make the team. I mean,
really?
I do, man. I think Andy Reid brought him over here for a reason. I don't think Andy Reid just hand plucks. I mean, it's happened before, obviously, where he's brought guys to his experiments and it never really panned out and they never really saw the field. But this one feels a little bit different. It feels real. But I mean, there just hasn't been enough real hype or traction from camp in my mind to really know what this kid is capable of, and or like I said, what his role is gonna be, what he is. Maybe he's not one thing. Maybe he's multiple things, going to be used multiple ways. Maybe Toub's going to use him a lot in different ways. Andy Reid's probably got to have packages for him if he does make the team. But as of right now, my mind is where my mind is at the moment is I do think he makes the team. I think that we use him as a specialty kind of player with like specialty packages and gadgets type stuff. Andy Reid loves those kind of guys. You know what I mean? So I think it's exciting, obviously for international purposes and just having an X factor kind of guy that can come in there and do random weird things with Andy Reid and his offense. So who knows, man? But at this moment, I'm excited. My expectations are low though.
All right, so Trevor and I, we see this a little bit differently. Trevor does right now expect Luis Rees-Zammit to make the team.
Yeah.
Rees-Zammit, I'm sorry, Luis Rees-Zammit. I'm expecting him to not make the team. I think it's a really cool story.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him to make the team, but I just think that when it comes to finding the best 53, I have a hard time believing a guy that's not been a football player his whole life is going to be one of those guys. We'll see. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys think that Rees-Zammit's going to make the team? Do you guys think he's going to be an adequate acquisition if he does make the team? Or you more on my side, cool story, it doesn't last long. I think something that's going to last long is the Nico Remigio story. I'm going to only continue to lean into this more and more as time goes on, guys, because I think we're going to see more and more of what Nico Remigio could be for this team as a whole. We were on Arrowhead Allies this week. We had a really good conversation with former Chargers linebacker Sean Merriman. Really good conversation. Talked about Priest Holmes, talked about his career, talked about Marty Schottenheimer, talked about where he stands on Jim Harbaugh. I got to ask him a couple questions about Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert's relationship. I highly recommend after this show today, guys, you go and check that out. It's only about, conversation's only about 27, 30 minutes long. Goes by really quick, but it's a really good conversation. But before we got on with Sean Merriman, I was asked the question about Nico Remigio. And basically, the hype of Justin Ross being what it was last year to now it's kind of slowly transitioning to Nico Remigio. Why it'll be different. And I simply said it's because of the fact that I think Nico Remigio is more of a seamless fit. I think that Justin Ross, with his size, you want it to work out because he's 6'4". He's one of those up and, he can go up and get a kind of ball kind of guy. Those guys, for whatever reason, just don't usually pan out in this offense because that's not the kind of offense the Chiefs play, where Patrick's just putting the ball up in the air and hopes a guy grabs it. That's not the style they play. They like to play a lot of timing, improvisation, between them. Yeah, create space, get open, sideline to sideline kind of stuff. Speed. That's what the Chiefs like to do. And I think that Nico is going to fit that. But I find it interesting because we got this clip here that I want to play. This is a courtesy of our guy Noah Groniger from Starcade Media, who burnt the shit out of himself out there at this event. But he got all the good audio bites and everything for a sacrifice. I mean, his face
Took one for the team.
Yeah, he looked like my Bill right here. During Arrowhead Allies, I felt really bad for Noah. So I hope you're Yeah, it's good for me. I hope Noah's doing good, and that's first and foremost. But I found it interesting what Dave Toub said in this clip in regards to Nico Remigio and the competition he's going to have. And I'm going to kind of break this down really quick for you guys. Let's go ahead and play that clip, Trev.
He's probably our number one kick returner right now. I'd put him in that category. So he's got a real good shot in my book, to make this team. Now he's doing everything he can as a wide receiver. He has to get in the depth there. He probably has to be a fifth or sixth receiver to be able to be on the 53. He's at least going to be on the practice squad. I guarantee that. And him and McCole are going to be battling out. You're exactly right. They're going to battle it out for that spot. So we'll see it. It'll come down to the return game and see how they do on the offensive side too as well.
Now, I have said on this show, and I've said on Arrowhead Allies, and I will continue to say it on both shows. Dave Toub is the assistant head coach for a reason. This man knows talent. He understands how to build a roster. I may not be a big fan of how Dave Toub runs the special teams a lot of times, especially over the last couple of years. This man knows football, and I will never debate that. And whenever he gives a sign of approval to a player, more likely that guy's going to make the team. And I think that the way he's talking about Remigio here, starting off by calling him possibly their best returner, tells me that Toub's already got a great plan in place from just a special teams perspective for Remigio to be on this roster. So I think it's safe to say that if all things go the way I'm expecting them to, and Remigio stays healthy, he's going to be on this 53-man. But I listening to the rest of what Toub said, this coaching staff is so good at what they do. They say stuff without really having to say stuff. And sometimes it's like you don't want to drive yourself crazy because you don't want to overthink what they're saying, or because sometimes they're just basically telling you nothing. But I think sometimes when it comes to certain players, they know they got something in a guy and they don't want to overhype them. And that's why I think that Toub intentionally mentions McCole Hardman, but never mentions Kadarius Toney or Sky Moore. Because he knows those are the two guys right now that are under the most pressure by far to make this roster. He didn't mention none of those guys because he doesn't want fans to pay attention to Nico Remigio versus Kadarius Toney or Nico Remigio versus Sky Moore. And trust me when I say, neither one of those two guys, Moore and Kadarius Toney, are safe. Both of those guys could very well be gone come training camp. Right. Trust me when I say that. I think Toub intentionally mentioned McCole because Toub knows that if McCole just simply stays healthy, he's making this roster. The Chiefs don't sign him for a third time unless they were planning on keeping McCole Hardman because they know he is a net positive on this team. And as I've been telling you guys over and over again, there is not a single thing that Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore can do that McCole can't do better. Neither one of them are faster than him. Neither one of them catch the ball better than him. Neither one of them are better route runners. Neither one of them are better special teams players.
Pat's trust.
Exactly. And neither one of them have Pat's trust like McCole.
Most importantly, yeah.
So my point in all of this is, and I don't know if you guys saw, by the way, Chris Long had Justin Reed, chief safety, on his show this last week on his podcast and broke down the final game-winning play against the Niners in the Super Bowl this last year. Do you guys know that wasn't even supposed to be the play? It was supposed to be a shovel pass to Jerick McKinnon. But Nick Bosa blew the play up, so Patrick knew where McCole was going to go.
Yep.
And McCole went right where he was supposed to be.
That's why McCole didn't know he won the Super Bowl because he wasn't ready. He wasn't expecting to get the ball. So
and where was Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney during that play? On the sidelines watching with everybody else.
Keeping the bench warm.
So, and this is not here to be a dog session on those two guys. You guys know where I stand on those dudes, and I stay there. My point in the message and what I'm saying is I think that Toub is telling us something without actually saying it. Is he's telling you, be prepared for Nico Remigio to be a guy in this offense and in special teams. Be a guy that can take another man's job, as our guy Pacheco once famously said in his rookie season. I think that's what Nico is this year. He is this year's Isaiah Pacheco, where he's going to steal another grown man's job, and that dude's gone, and McCole Hardman and him are on this roster together, and we look back at these comments and go, oh, I get why Toub did what he did. He took the pressure off Remigio, he took the pressure off Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore, and he let them battle it out without there being a narrative created before camp ever started. Trevor, do you see it the same way, or what do you hear when you hear Dave Toub see these things? Is it more of a simplistic thing to you, or do you think there might be a little bit of a underlined message like I am? Because I'm really digging deep on this one.
It didn't feel vague from him. For one, it felt like he said those things with confidence, right?
Yeah.
He seemed like he was confident when talking about Nikko, and Nico's been kind of the talk of camp, right? And I think Toub knows that. And I think, usually when guys are the talk of camp and they're not a guy that's really been on the team or been a part of anything this team's really done, usually you try to kind of backpedal that a little bit. But no, it's a straight up battle between him and McColl is what he kind of made it seem like, even though I do think when healthy, both those guys will make this team. Yeah, man, if anything should give Nikko confidence, hearing his coach say those things should do that. So, for me, man, Toub isn't really a guy to kind of shy away, and he's not really a guy to kind of, butter things up. He's a pretty straight shooter with the way he thinks. Whenever it comes to him taking accountability for things, when he's had slip ups or speaking on guys, being critical of guys, he's a pretty straight shooter, and I think that's what kind of separates him from Andy Reid, and I think that's why they're good for each other because they're both different. Andy Reid doesn't really always straight shoot things. He kind of just dances around some things because that's what makes him a great coach, because he doesn't want to throw guys under the bus or be straightforward with things all the time. But Dave Toub is kind of a straight shooter, and I think what he said was good, and I think it was good for Nikko, and I think it's kind of confirming a lot of what people have been saying about camp and how he's looked in camp and what he's done, and even dating back to last year, how we fell in love with him last year. That's when we saw in the preseason, and sometimes guys just have it, and I think Dave Toub knows that. Nikko is one of those guys that has those capabilities as a football player. Yeah, he loves the game, and that's the kind of guys who want on this team. That you can trust to perform when the time comes. And yeah, man, I think that was a gloating review from a coach that is very much a pivotal decision maker when it comes to these rosters and who makes these cuts. And I think Dave Toub, if anybody outside of Andy Reid, has the biggest voice to that, especially if he's somebody he knows he can have as a legitimate returner, let alone a guy who can be a ball catcher. Dave Toub has that kind of pull. So yeah, man, I think it's definitely inspiring for Nikko and for the fans that want to see him make this team.
And this is what's frustrating about injuries is this very topic. I truly believe if Nikko never got hurt in training camp last year, he makes the roster last season. And I think he takes snaps from Kadarius Toney. I think he takes snaps from Sky Moore. I think he takes snaps from Justin Ross. And I think he's more of an impact player. And I don't mean like the offense is just all of a sudden just that much more open where they're scoring 35 a night, because they were struggling to score 20.
Yeah, Richie James probably wouldn't have made the roster.
Richie James probably wouldn't have made the roster.
Probably made it over.
Yeah, and so, I mean, who's to say that McColl even gets traded for?
Sure.
Like one piece can be a difference. You saw just having Juju Smith-Schuster in 2022, how much better MVS was that year than in 2023. Like, MVS was horrible in 2023.
Yeah.
He wasn't horrible in 2022. He was a solid player.
Yeah.
He was solid. He had like 500 and some yards, a couple touchdowns. Like, he was a decent player. Showed up big in the AFC Championship when everyone else got hurt.
Yep.
Like, we'll give him his credit.
Had the best game of his career.
But there was less pressure on him, is what I'm saying. So, with Rashee Rice in place, hopefully he won't, be suspended for too long. With Hollywood Brown in place, hopefully Xavier Worthy's a guy. With those three guys in place, if all three of those guys are doing their thing, you have that one reliable guy in the background behind them, him, McCole Hardman, Justin Watson, guys like that. Those guys' jobs are that much easier to excel in this offense. And I think that if Nikko is the guy that we're seeing in training camp, he's the guy we're seeing in practice, he's the guy we're seeing in these preseason games, I have to believe, Troy, this offense is going to be just that much better because of his presence. Because without him last season, you saw them trying to dig deep. They kept 7 receivers. What a mistake that was. Because there was only about 2 guys on the entire wide receiver room that was worth a damn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was so inept. It was so bad. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think that with the games that Rashee plays, he's going to be great. I think Rashee's going to be a really good player. I believe in Hollywood Brown. I think he's going to be a very solid contributor in this offense.
I think he's going to be really good this year.
Xavier Worthy's got all the talent. Is he going to become an NFL player? We'll find out.
I'm stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Yeah. I'm hoping. I'm rooting for him. I would love to see that. The tight end room looks good. Looks sturdy. Running back's a big issue. We'll talk about that as time goes on. But I think, Trevor, if Nico Remigio plays a solid presence in this offense, This wide receiver room could be better than I'm even anticipating. Because right now, I would probably have them. I'd probably have them in the bottom 7, 8 wide receiver rooms in the league right now. I would say so. But if Nico Remigio becomes a guy that can catch, 44 balls, gets 530 yards,
bottom 8
3
as far
touchdowns.
as far as name and notability.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think production wise, I think they'll be up there just because I think this offense is going to take a step forward. I think Hollywood Brown definitely makes a difference, and I think drafting a speedster receiver who could pop immediately.
That's what there's a lot.
We
of
don't know, but that
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of
I think there's a lot of mystery right now, but I think that's good because there was no mystery last year. We knew that this room was shit, and it was a struggle all year, which is why you bring in 7 guys because that was a desperation move. Just in case something falls through, which everything was falling through, and we still managed to win a Super Bowl. So I would take the upside of the mystery of what could be and what ifs right now over the shit that was last year and the consistent shit that it was last year, and still managing to win a Super Bowl. So I think it's only up from there, in my personal opinion. But I just really hope Nikko makes this team. I really hope he becomes a player for this team, because I like the person, let alone the player and what he is. His story is cool. So I think he's got a lot of promise. I like those underdog stories, those undersized guys. Those are always fun, and I think this fan base is gonna really stand behind that guy. So I'm hoping that pans out for him, man.
Well, you're hearing the clicking and the clacking of the headphones. You know what that means. Another guy with a lot of promise is going to be joining us right now. We're so honored. We're so thrilled. So privileged to have the dude, the most handsome man in Chiefs community. Trevor's second. I'm actually first, but Marcus is second. Trevor can be third, I guess.
That's fun.
I try to stay humble. The point is, he's on here for a reason, to give us his takes. A guy that I very much appreciate and respect. I think he's one of the most authentic dudes in and out of the Chiefs community. One of my best buds. This is a great man. Chief Concerns, I think, is one of the most underrated shows. I think they have the best content out there consistently. And that is why we continue to have both him, Jason Dunn, on this show as much as possible. Let's give it up for the one, the only, motherfucking Marcus Dash.
What's going on, man?
What's up, fellas? I always get the best introductions from you guys. You guys give me spot-on introductions. I don't know about that most handsome man. I will say, Trevor, I think you're the most buff man or most ripped man in the Chiefs community. I will say that.
We were thinking about doing like a shirt skins show, but then I decided that I wanted to keep a following, so we didn't go that route.
Sun's out, nips out, baby. Let's go.
I'll tell you what, your Facebook post, your triceps looking pretty good. Your triceps looking pretty good, buddy.
I'm getting there. I realized that Barry Bonds was right. Anabolic steroids is where it's at. But I use the cream. Okay, I don't inject in my buttocks. We don't do that weird shit, dude.
Cream the taint.
Yeah. Deer antler spray. That's Ray Lewis said that worked.
Deer antler. I remember those days.
Just put it underneath the tongue. You're good. Yeah, I remember at college I bought into that after Ray Lewis said, recovers like all your muscles and all that stuff. I bought into that.
That shit was flying up the shelves.
Didn't do anything, man.
You grew some antlers though, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Well, we're here not to talk about antler spray, damn it. We're going to talk about some football, and we're going to be talking about a couple particular topics that you and I bounced off each other on the phone the other day, man. And that conversation really had, like I told you, man, it had a lot of things in my brain just really go, because this time of year, man, you're looking for content, you're looking for things to talk about, and this is usually the time where the Chiefs fans really start to, search for things. And, Trevor and I just kind of got this topic, and I wanted to kind of start right there to kind of piggyback off where we left off. We heard Dave Toub, Chiefs special teams coach / assistant coach, talk about Nico Remigio in particular. Now, you were the dude, and I'll give you all the credit in the world here, Marcus. You were the one that told me, watch out for this kid. And I started paying attention, and I immediately fell in love with him because he doesn't have this athletic prowess to him. He's not 6'4" like Justin Ross. He's not a burner like a Hollywood Brown, but he's just got something to him, like where he just feels like a reliable dude. Like when the ball's going to go in his direction, he's going to catch it. He's going to run his route the right way. It's special teams. He's going to make a big play. I just feel like he's just one of those dudes that I think has a career ahead of him. And I hope it's here in Kansas City. And so now that we're seeing and hearing Dave Toub kind of sing his praises, talks about how like him and McCole Hardman are going to be kind of battling it out. My take on that is, I think Toub said some stuff without actually saying it. I think he brought up McColl because I think the Chiefs are so comfortable with McColl that they can use his name as one of those guys as far as competition because they know as long as McColl stays healthy, he's making this roster. But when it comes to guys like Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore, he doesn't mention those guys because he doesn't want that to be the narrative for fans to be paying attention to going training camp and preseason where, I don't know, man, Nikko looks better than Kadarius Toney. He looks better than Sky Moore. Like, they're not going to be focusing on those things. They'll look at those guys as separate entities, and Nico's over here doing his thing. And then, oh, what do you know? This guy makes the team, and one of those two guys, or both those guys, don't make the roster. I think that's what Toub's trying to do here by trying to keep them separate and keep the pressure off both sides so both of them can just have a clear mind, a precise mind, and go in there and do what they need to do and may the best man win. What are your thoughts? What are your opinions on when you hear guys like Dave Toub, who we both know has such a heavy presence and a deciding factor on how this roster is built, talking about Nikko being maybe the best kick return, punt return on this team already? And do you think that he is a guy that, if he stays healthy, is a lock for the roster?
I think so. I mean, you guys mentioned it right before I came on. Had he not gotten hurt in that Saints game, he probably would have made the team. We probably would have never had Richie James. That would have never been a thing last year. Yeah. But yeah, Remigio, and I'll attribute my liking Nico Remigio coming out to being just a degenerate. Sometimes it's degenerate. You have to watch. You stay up late Saturday nights to watch the 10 o'clock Mountain West games, the Fresno State versus Hawaii or San Jose State games. And I got to see a lot of Nico Remigio for staying up late during Saturdays and in the fall. That's the one good thing about being a sports degenerate gambler, at least. But yeah, no, I think Remigio, like I said, had he not gotten hurt, we would have been talking about him last year. I think them bringing back McCall Hardman, I think it's more so, and yes, I think by mentioning Hardman in that, it kind of takes the pressure off some of the other guys. But I do think that is going to be Hardman's role. I don't think Hardman's going to get a lot of offensive snaps this year, unless there's injuries and unless Rashee Rice, he's suspended and Xavier Worthy's out with the hamstring injury. Then we'll see Hardman in there. It's going to take guys not being there for Hardman to get a lot of offensive reps. Kind of like how it was after in the playoffs last year. Hardman wasn't getting a lot of reps after. Was the Bills game where he had a fumble at like the 1 yard line? Was that right? Yeah. He was getting a lot of playing time. After that happened, they kind of like waned on his playing time a little bit. So I think we're going to see him sporadically with Hardman on offense. I think his way he gets on the team is the special teams aspect. But I think Remigio, if Toub's already saying this right now, that's a high praise for a guy who was hurt last year, and we're already saying he's the best returner on the team. So I do think there's some validity to that, and the KT Sky Moore stuff, that's its own little entity. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I think KT missing the voluntary side of things, I think this just tells you where his head's at. And I know a lot of people in Chiefs Kingdom want to keep him around because he's a talented guy, and everyone talks about that. But, like, gosh, do you really want with a room that has so many young guys in it now, do you really want just a presence like that kind of this, like, dark cloud that lingers over the room? I don't think we want that anymore. That's just my personal opinion on it. But I do think, talking about Remigio, I think Remigio is obviously in the driver's seat there, especially if Toub's even, like, kind of putting his 10 toes down on it.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point here because I think the Chiefs are big on vibes. I think they like having, obviously, productive players, and that's why they took a gamble, took a shot at trading for Kadarius Toney, is, let's give up a third-round pick for a first-round grade, or he's like the 7th overall pick in 2021 or whatever it was. Let's see what happens. They've tried it. Kadarius Toney has not panned out, and it's not just that he hasn't panned out. Now he's starting to have these off-field weird situations with the whole blaming AI for his Instagram stuff and, like you said, not showing up to things that he needs to show. If anybody needs practice, it's Kadarius Toney. And he's not showing up. He's not showing this team that he's doing everything in his power to be a contributor to this team. And for me, I think if I'm a betting man, I think Brett Veach is saying, look, we brought McCall Hardman for a reason because we know that we can rely on him if we need him. And I think that we can hold off till the end of camp, and if Kadarius Toney's even healthy, we can kind of just show the Chiefs fans, hey, listen, we've given this guy every opportunity, but Nico's emerging. Xavier Worthy hopefully is becoming a dude. Rashi's, taking that next step. Hollywood's that veteran that we hoped for. There's really no justification in keeping Kadarius at this point because he doesn't really have a role now. You know, because you remember last offseason, the narrative was this could be our wide receiver one. Now it's like, is this dude going to be on the roster? So I think that the Chiefs are going to try to just justify it to the fans as to why I think they move off of Kadarius Toney. Sky Moore, he's not a distraction, but he doesn't do anything on the field. So it's going to be one of those things as well, where is he going to show at least a glimmer of hope? Because this is a cutthroat business. If you're trying to three-peat, feelings really shouldn't matter. It should be about the best dudes make the team, and I think it would be a mistake on the Chiefs' behalf if they have 7 receivers again, because there's not 7 receivers on this current team that deserve to be on this roster. Do you agree with that, Marcus?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I'll say this, Hardman, another reason why they brought him back, so you look at the room is really young. And Hardman's still a pretty young guy. But in terms of the Chiefs being a veteran for this team, being a guy who's been around the block, being a guy who can teach these younger guys the nuances of the teteam, Hardman can do that. He's not this 32-year-old guy, he's not Tom Berenger in Major League. He's a younger guy, but he's been around the block on this team, and he can teach the guys some valuable stuff. And I think we just lacked that. And there wasn't really another guy out there. I know we talked about, we threw the name around, maybe trying to trade like a future 7th round pick for Robert Woods, but you're bringing in a veteran, but that's veteran's never been in our system before. So you can't really help the young guys out in the nuances of the scheme. So I think at the very baseline of this whole thing, you have Hardman back, who is a veteran who can be there for the younger guys. And you saw that first day there, talking to Xavier Worthy, talking to LRZ, about catching punts. And all that. So I think that in that respect, it's great. Kadarius Toney, he hasn't really shown much of anything. The AI thing, AI is going rampant. People are stealing people's voices, but no one's going around to steal your voice to dog the Chiefs. The injury reports, come on, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Biggest stretch ever. But Sky Moore, he hasn't really shown much. His claim to fame is catching that wide open touchdown pass in the Super Bowl that any of us 3 could have caught. So he hasn't really done anything. And honestly, let me just ask you this: Justin Ross, Sky Moore, who has shown more potential between the two of them in preseason and in NFL games? Who's shown more potential in
Justin Ross?
That's it. And this is a guy who played 14 snaps last year in total.
And he brings something to the team that Sky Moore can't.
Yeah, 100%.
Something we're missing with size. Yeah.
And he's just shown it. Sky Moore hasn't shown any wow plays, even if one. Right. No, he hasn't really shown anything. And it's a shame. It's a huge miss because it was a 2nd-round pick. But I think it's just time to let it play out during training camp. If Sky Moore isn't there, just don't force him on the team just because he was a 2nd-round pick and you're still just trying to make it work. Because you're really not making it work. You're keeping him as a 7th, 6th guy. He's not going to get many reps to showcase anything at this point. And I think Ross has just shown more in the small amount of snaps that he's gotten. You got to keep him over him. But that's just those two. There's a lot of other guys too. The Remigio. He's got to make the team, and it's got to come from somewhere. I'm thinking that the Rice suspension will come down before the season starts because as we get closer, media is going to be all up in that. They're going to be talking about that all the time. Chiefs may face pressure, and there also may be some. We may find out some more as we get closer to the season. But I think one of those guys will be stuck around a little bit longer because of the Rice suspension, maybe pulling somebody up from practice squad. I don't know how it's going to work. They got their hands full here, but we're keeping 4 tight ends. I do think they're going to keep Irv and all those guys. So if they keep Carson Steele, that's a fullback spot that we didn't have before. They're going to keep that guy. So it's got to come from somewhere. They got to cut the fat. And we kept 8, if I remember correctly, last year, right? Receivers?
7.
7. Yeah, they're going to have their hands full, man.
Yeah, that was by far the most that Andy Reid has ever kept in his entire coaching career. The most he had before that obviously was 6, and I only think that was once or twice. Usually he keeps around 5. So last year was a very interesting season, to say the least, and I think that told us more about, because everybody thought, it's because they have so many talented guys. No, I think it was because the fact they had no idea what they had in about 5 of them. And so I think they needed to know and figure that out. And so, but, going to the other side of the football. Go ahead,
Two things I want to say. One, I want to commend you on your free agency list or your off-season list. I think it came on right before it started or right after it happened, and you went through your whole list, your wish list. And I got to tell you, man, you were spot on. Did you miss anything? Did you have any misses on there?
Oracle.
Because dude, it's crazy, man. Wild.
I think the only one I don't have right so far because the other ones that haven't been checked off yet are like extensions, like Creed Humphrey, Harrison Butker. Like those are ones that probably will happen. But the one I just whiffed on was extending Nick Allegretti. He went and got that big deal with the Commanders. So outside of that, right now over 50% of my list has been checked off. The other ones I'm just waiting for, like I said, the extensions and things like that. But yeah, man, I'm pretty damn proud of that one. So I appreciate you bringing that up. What was the other part you were going to bring up?
Well, yeah, so because when the Hardman thing happened, I remember I was like, Jesus, dude, Lance had that. And I was like, I did not think that was going to happen at all, Hardman coming back. And you called that. But the other thing I was going to say, talking about the receivers and Justin Ross real quickly. Justin Ross, he had that whole, he was starting to come along, and then he had that whole thing, I don't even know what they even called it or whatever, but the off the field stuff where he got punished for that. And they kept him on the team despite that, because initially it looked pretty bad. The reports coming out about what happened. And they kept him on the team, and obviously we're seeing now that we're still keeping guys on the team who are having problems off the field. And I'm not talking about Rashee Rice, but they kept him on the team through that. Media was kind of killing us for it. I remember Florio was dogging us pretty hard, and he dogs us hard anyway. But they kept him despite that, and they still kept him around the team. He's still here now, so it's like they kept him through all that. They obviously do see something in him. Everyone raves about the guy. The Chiefs, the social media team loves the guy. They see something with him, and that's why I think he's got a shot over Sky Moore. But that's just the Sky Moore versus Justin Ross debate. There's other guys there.
And I think, honestly, I would say this. To that point, if both of them were undrafted free agents, I would 100% agree with you. But I think the Chiefs are still trying to convince themselves, because of what they spent in getting Sky Moore with a second-round pick, that they're going to try to still give him as many opportunities to make this team as possible. So I do agree with you, because Trevor, you and I agree that who gives them the most upside, who gives them the most in a shorter sample size, it's clearly Justin Ross. Yeah. Just from a physical standpoint. But I just know this team, and sometimes they get a little stubborn to a fault, man, when it comes to guys they spend money on or they spend draft resources on. They try to give those guys as many chances as possible, even when they've shown us they just don't have it. And, Sky's been, 33, 34 games in his career, has 2 touchdowns.
Terrible.
I'm done. I've seen this movie, so I'm with you. I just wish the Chiefs saw it that way.
Who's the other cornerback we drafted like round 3, and we from Notre Dame? We cut him like the next year, or I think we actually cut that year. I think it was a Dorsey draft pick, cornerback from Notre Dame.
Not Tremont Smith.
No.
Oh, I gotta look that up.
I know who you're talking about. I can see his face.
It's not Keys.
Because we drafted him like a 3rd round. I think we cut him that offseason, right? Kavari Russell.
Yes.
Didn't he go to Cincy after that, or he went somewhere?
He went to Cincy after that. Yeah, we cut him that. Yeah. We cut him that off. We cut him that training camp. We drafted him.
I was stoked on that pick too. It was a bust.
That was the thing about Dorsey's drafts, though. Like he would draft a Hall of Famer, and then Tano Passanio.
Yeah.
That was his. You want to tell? He was like the Adam Dunn of drafts. Like he'd knock a 500-footer, then strike out like 5 straight times. Yeah. That was his way, dude.
So, but that was a 3rd round pick though, and they got rid of him that year. They cut bait fast, so like we have seen Andy Reid do that before. So that's why it's like, okay, if they keep Sky Moore this year, and like there's other guys who show that they look much better in training camp and preseason, then yes, it's going to what you said. But we have seen Andy Reid do this before, where he cuts bait if he's not there. And like, what was the whole? He went on like the IR at the end of the season on that like mysterious injury that no one saw.
Yeah.
Remember that was weird?
I called it out. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I called bullshit. I was like, look, it's no coincidence to me that he dropped that one pass. Luckily, there was a penalty on the play, but Patrick was like livid about that drop. After that, we never saw Sky Moore again. I was like, yeah, knee injury, huh? My ass.
Yeah. So, and that's why it's like, okay, he ended the season. Him and KT ended the season on really bad notes. Yeah. And their names really aren't coming up anywhere. And I'll give Sky Moore credit. At least he's working his ass off. He's in Texas with Mahomes, trying to get better. He's trying to do something, and it's like obviously it's not working out. And if it doesn't show during this preseason and training camp, then I hope they keep some of the other guys over Sky Moore, because we've seen enough Sky Moore.
Yeah, if we see more of Sky, I'm done. Like, because I'll be like that preacher. I'll be like that preacher meme. Wah. Why? Like, why are we keeping this guy? He's the same dude he was the previous 2 years. You don't need to see that movie for a third straight year, man. Especially, like I said, when you have the goal of making an historic feat of three-peating, you don't want to take that risk again. Winning, like, we've talked about this, Marcus. Last season was not fun. It was great they won the Super Bowl, and we all were happy and were relieved, but the season sucked. Yeah. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun at all. Yeah. They were struggling to score 20 points a game. That's because their wide receiver room was bullshit. Mm-hmm. Now they got to get better, and I think they are better. But they got to trim some more of this fat. Once they do that, I think they'll be at that right place. But got a couple more questions for you here, Marcus. And dude, we really appreciate you taking time on a Saturday. We know that you guys are doing videos like every fucking day over at Chief Concerns. So thank you. And I know you got your 76er stuff going on during the NBA season, which will be back before you know it. Yep. You know, you and I and Tasia, your brother, Tasia Dash, had a really good show 2 drafts ago. We did our reactions. I think it was the day 3 reactions, and we were talking about a couple of key players we liked. Now, we will admit we liked Keandre Coburn. That didn't really work out. But another guy we liked a lot of, and I think he's going to start really paying dividends for the Chiefs, was Chamari Connor. And I've been hearing some really, really exciting reports out of Chiefs camp. And training camp hasn't started yet, but these OTAs, mandatory minicamps, things of that nature, they're only singing the praises of Chamari Connor. And the reason I was stoked about this pick is because I thought, and this is why I was totally okay with losing L'Jarius Sneed. One, your defense isn't built around L'Jarius Sneed, even though he just had an incredible season. 2, I think Chamari Connor is just as versatile as L'Jarius Sneed. Maybe he won't become he won't have like a standalone season like L'Jarius just did, but I think he can be an effective player all over the field where he can play some slot, play some dime, play some safety, play some far out corner. Like, I think this dude can do it all. And he did that back in Virginia. I think Chamari Connor could be one of those breakout players for the Chiefs this year, and I think that could become one of Brett Veach's best draft picks based on value, based on who he's replacing, what he's replacing. That's where I stand on Chamari Connor. I've been feeling that way since day one. Where do you stand right now on this kid?
Oh, I mean, obviously, naturally being in Virginia, we kind of have to naturally root for the Virginia Tech guys. You know, it's like how you guys are in your area. You root for the Kansas State guys. You root for the Missouri. Yep. And that's the thing. I will say it's one of the detriment of Chiefs Kingdom, that fan base. Everyone gets so pulled into those guys. Like, oh no, we got to keep them on the team. And I think that's why Ben Neiman stuck around for as long as he did. I mean, you know, but no, I think Connor at the end of last season, he looked so good. Every time, like, you'd see him like coming up and laying wood on guys. I mean, his tackling, like to meet on contact, man, the way he did last year, especially in the playoffs. I mean, he was rising to the occasion, and then we're talking a rookie rising to the occasion on this defense that played so well last year. So yeah, I only think it's going to continue from here. And I remember on that draft show we talked about the measurables. We put up the L'Jarius Sneed measurables and the Chamari Connor measurables, and they were like, I mean, yeah, it's one thing for a guy to be built like another guy, and he was. I mean, he looked like an archetype of L'Jarius Sneed, wingspan, weight, height, all that stuff. He was spot on with him. I think, I don't think he's going to be exactly like L'Jarius Sneed, but I'll tell you what, his tackling, superb from a DB, and I think he'll be great this year. I think the DB room is going to be fantastic. When I talked to Nazi like 2 weeks ago, he was talking about that room, and I got a sense when I asked him, it's on our channel, but one of the questions I asked him, because everyone's like, oh, you know, how much is going to hurt to lose L'Jarius Sneed? It's like yada yada yada. I'm like, no. I was like, well, I'm not going to ask him that question because he's been hearing that all the time, and like, I don't know, I wouldn't want to hear that. Like, someone left like my office or whatever. It's like, oh, you're really gonna miss him. Oh, he did a lot of work for you guys. Like,
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do with that? I'm like, well, I'm gonna still do my fucking job because you know that's what I've been doing that the whole time. But like, Nazi, Watson, Williams, Chamari Connor, even some of the young guys, Kamal, the Tennessee dude. His name? I forgot his name. But all these guys, Kamal Hayden. All these guys all those guys look good. And Nazi said all of us bring something to the table that maybe L'Jarius Sneed didn't. We may not all be L'Jarius Sneed, but he said I'm more of a ball hawk than L'Jarius is. Josh, more physical than L'Jarius Sneed, or whatever. He didn't say that, but everyone brings something to the table that L'Jarius Sneed may not have, and they may not be L'Jarius Sneed, but they all bring a little bit different, little nuances, little intricacies that maybe Sneed didn't have. And I think as a room collectively, they have something in that room, and that's why we've been able to move on from guy to guy to guy, and we don't really miss a beat. AFC Championship game 2 years ago, L'Jarius Sneed gets hurt in the first play of the game. Josh Williams steps up. Jalen Watson steps up. And now you got Najee, who was starting last year, even with Sneed was there. Now he's back full go. And Tramari Connor in a year has grown in last season. So I don't think we're going to miss a beat in the secondary. I think that's our number one spot, obviously quarterback and tight end. And I think DBs are amongst our best position group in football and on our team as well. Those guys, man, top to bottom. And Connor's not even the guy we even name that often because everyone talks about Watson and Josh Williams and McDuffie. Well, then you bring in Connor. It's like, well, actually, Connor was a badass last year. And, I mean, he was kind of a hybrid safety cornerback kind of guy. And obviously with Spags, he's going to utilize you all over the field, especially if you are this Swiss Army knife on defense. And, yeah, he looked fantastic. And he looked fantastic in a spot in the playoffs where guys don't usually look and kind of show out. He did, and he was a late round guy and showed out in the playoffs, and I think that's awesome.
And he also weighs about 20 pounds more than L'Jarius Sneed too, so he packs a punch. This dude's got a frame on him,
and that's that scheme too, man. That's Spags putting the right guys in the right place, the right time.
Yeah, this is like, go ahead
with the rookie, because everyone always talks about, oh man, these are young guys, and when Najee, Jalen Watson, Josh Williams, these are third year guys, but these are probably the most third year veteran guys you'll ever see, because 3 years these guys have been playing 5 more extra weeks. So they're almost playing a full season. They're really 4-year guys. You add up all the years they've been playing, the extra weeks they played the last 2 years, but 4 extra weeks each year. So, I mean, these guys are third-year guys, young, and you look at their age, but not really. These guys have been playing a lot. And even Connor, he was a rookie last year, but played 4 extra games. That's 4 extra games that he had that other rookies didn't have. So he is more of a veteran than he's not your usual second-year guy, and these third-year guys aren't your usual third-year guys in the league. So these guys, I'm like, they may be young by age, they're ready to go, and it's Sneed. It'll be a loss, but I don't think it's gonna be that big of a loss. I don't think it'll be that much. For damn, we really missed Sneed this year. I don't think we're ever gonna say that next year.
Well, I think we have a problem too with automatically thinking that the replacement player is gonna be worse than the guy that was ahead of him, because we didn't know Sneed was going to be better than the guy ahead of him. So these replacement guys, Tramari Connor could be better than L'Jarius Sneed immediately, because he could have a skill set, like you said, he could be more of a ball hawk, could be a better tackler, he could be better in totality. So I think we need to kind of stop being so worried about the L'Jarius Sneed replacement or the vacancy that he's going to leave. I think we're going to be in good hands, man. I think Spags at the helm is always putting us in a good spot. So,
and who was Charvarius Ward, right? Who was he? I mean, who was he?
They traded him for a backup center.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, man.
And our guy, mutual friend Mike Williams from All Chiefed Up, he mentioned that if you start getting attached to players that aren't named, like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, you're doing it wrong. It's going to be a rotating door. I love Brian Cook, Leo Chenal.
McDuffie's there for me, but yeah.
But most of these guys won't be here in 3 or 4 years. You might have your Creed Humphreys, Trey Smiths, maybe a Nick Bolton, maybe Trent McDuffie, but maybe you won't. If you want to continue to win Super Bowls, you have to be willing to make these sacrifices. And L'Jarius Sneed is just a prime example of that. And I thought it was insane when people said they'd rather keep him than Chris Jones. I thought that was insane. Because as you and I talked, Marcus, on the phone this week, maybe the worst position that Brett Veach is drafted at, outside of wide receiver, has been interior defensive line.
Yeah.
So you're never going to replace Chris Jones, but when you're that bad at that position, all the leverage falls into Chris Jones' hands, and so that's why they had to pay him what they paid him, and let L'Jarius Sneed go the way they did. I mean, just don't be shocked, guys, and we all love L'Jarius, but just don't be shocked when this defense is just as effective in the secondary without him, because I think that's what's going to happen, because they put a lot of resources in that position. And Marcus, you and I, I had you coming on the show weeks before, but something we have to talk about, man, is something I started the show off with is finally kind of just staking my flag and developing an opinion. It might be a preliminary opinion. It might be just something to put out there right now. But it's something that Trevor and I had to talk about, and it's something to credit to you guys at Chief Concerns have been talking about. You guys have multiple videos on this, and hopefully you can pimp those out on this show today. But for those watching, listening right now, if after the show's done, go to Chief Concerns. They'll talk about this a lot. They give you guys a lot more extensive detail than we do here. But we finally talked about Luis Rees-Zammit, as LRZ, and what he actually is for this team. And is he going to be something for this team? And, I present all the positives about what he could be, the marketability factor, and confirm this real quick if you can, Marcus. You did tell me that in Europe he has like the second or third highest football selling jersey right now?
It's the third. Kelsey,
thank you.
Mahomes, and Zammit.
The Chiefs just fucking own Europe.
The Holy Trinity.
So the point I'm making, though, is how insane that is to say. A guy that has never played a football down, who wasn't drafted out of college, is selling his jerseys to that magnitude. Like, I want this story to work out. I would love to see this become one of those insane NFL stories where some dude out of fucking nowhere, there's some rugby guy, comes in and becomes like the next Taysom Hill that makes these cool plays. He's a gimmicky guy, or he at worst special teams, and he makes a blow up tackle here and there on a punt return and get a fumble recovery because of it.
Just be Dexter McCluster.
Yeah, be something. Yeah. Be something on this team. If he makes this roster and can play any type of role at all, it's a success story. It's a success story because, as I told Trevor before right at the beginning of the show, we have dudes that spend the first 20 years of their lives molding, shaping, busting their ass, taking all these training classes, coaching, all this, and they don't make it. This dude is just now starting out his football career, and people are like automatically etching him in onto the roster. I know Europe is going to be pissed at me right now. I know all the fans of LRC are going to be pissed at me right now. But where I sit right now, where I have to stake my flag is, I know how fucking difficult the NFL is. I know how hard it is to make it to the league for guys that have been dedicating the first 2 decades of their lives to making it to the league is. I have a hard time believing this dude's going to make the roster right now. I think that there's too many good players on this team. This isn't just an NFL roster. This is a roster that has back-to-back Super Bowl wins. That means that you have to be the best of the best. And it's hard for me to imagine that Zammit's going to learn the game that quickly and be that effective that quickly to justify taking one of these 53 roster spots. That's where I sit right now. I hope I'm wrong because it'd be an awesome story, like I said, that just him making the roster and being a contributor of any magnitude. But I don't see it happening right now, Marcus. Where do you sit, brother?
So I've wavered on this a little bit. So I still stand in because there's people who think that LRZ, he's an athletic freak, which he is. He's fast as heck. He's got his legs are freaking look at. Have you ever seen his legs? It's like MJD, like tree trunks, man. Those things are thick. People think he could be this third down back for us, and I'm like, no. There's no really blocking in rugby, so he's never really had experience blocking, so he can't be our third down back. I mean, JD and I have watched some of his film of him catching the ball. He's still, when he catches the ball, it's not, you can just tell it's not a natural catch, and that goes along to what you were saying. That these guys have been playing for a long time. The Remigios, the other guys who are fighting for that last spot, and he's in the running back room. So I mean, it's just not natural. And the way he runs, standing up straight, you got to kind of run behind your shoulder pads. I mean, there's a lot of nuances that you have to learn, and he's learning it in this like few month process right now. But the one loophole, which I think the Chiefs are going to find, is that when you carry a guy from the International Pathway Program, that guy doesn't count against your roster. So technically, you could keep him on the squad, and that's 54 guys. He's not really counting against the roster because the NFL is trying to push them across, push themselves in Europe and make it global. Which goes to the point where I think. Well, before I get to the marketability factor of LRZ, I'll say this, and we talked about this, Lance, that the game is changing. The kickoff rules are going to change the game a little bit. And if it does go past this year, I hope it does, and I hope it's cool like it is in the XFL, because we really missed the kickoff returns. We really missed that in the NFL. I mean, it wasn't a thing anymore. This guy's booting in the back of the end zone. That's it. That's done. And I'm glad they're trying to, give people reasons to return the ball and kick it within the with that 5 to 20 yard range. So LRZ, the Toub's already said that Justin Reed and LRZ are getting shots at kicking the ball on kickoffs, and they may want Butker to kind of focus in on hone in on PATs and field goals, which is great. Because, with this kickoff return rule, these guys, kickers are last line defense, and Butker has definitely tackled before. He was a high school kicker and a college kicker. He's definitely had a tackle at some point, but may not be his thing. Not when you're talking about Justin Reed as our starting safety. And then LRZ, who comes from a sport where you are tackling. So he can kick and he can tackle, LRZ. So when they said this, I thought about it, like, wait, so I'm thinking about putting LRZ back to kick, and he can tackle. Interesting. And when these rules take off, you may actually see this where because no team wants to put their starting safety out on special teams because that's you're risking him for injury. He gets paid more than LRZ and Butker. We're gonna risk him getting hurt in special teams because it's football. Anything can happen on any given play. You don't want to do that. That's why I'm thinking that LRZ. Everyone's talking about third down back, all this stuff. He's gonna be a special teams guy. Now, where on special teams? I don't know. But this kicking aspect where he can be able to tackle, I think that's going to be a big part of it. I think he can be a Swiss Army knife from the special teams realm of things as he learns the other different nuances of football, catching, learn to run behind his pads, get low, all that stuff. I'm curious, that's going to be a project. But being able to kick a ball, which you can look online, there's videos of him kicking rugby balls like half the rugby field. I mean, we're talking like 70-yard kicks. This guy, he's got a leg, man. He can drop kick too, like the old Doug Flutie drop kick from back in the day. He can do that. You can do all sorts of things. But we're talking about a guy who can tackle and kick. And if we are going to play this whole kickoff return stuff again, I think he's perfect for that. And also, too, I think the evolution of the game, if this does take off, the Chiefs could be trendsetters here where something that no one – because it seems like we've already been studying this whole kickoff rules for a long time. We've known this was coming since the end of the season. And the fact they were so quick to get this LRZ guy – and then we're automatically already putting him in their rotation with Justin Reed and Butker to kickoffs and stuff. I think it's something there. They've been thinking about this. And if they do find this works, and we have a guy who's an athletic beast who can run a 4-4 or 4-3, whatever he can run, and kick and tackle, I think we may find something that works, and the NFL could actually end up doing this at some point. Other teams can actually catch on and do this. Because this is different. This is not just, we pick up this rugby guy. We're going to put him at kick return. He's going to take stuff to the house for us. We're going to put him in the backfield and catch passes in the backfield. That's the ultimate goal. We like that. But if you can find this realm here in the kickoff, I think he got something here. And this could be interesting how the future of the kicker position may kind of unfold to this.
And it'd be funny that his career would become something based on these new rules because something else I didn't mention is, when it comes to skill position players that are coming from the rugby world, there were 5 names that I brought up earlier in the show, and of those 5 guys, those players only saw 7 total games combined of real NFL action. So it may take something like this for that to happen, and I think you make great points here, Marcus, that the Chiefs may have seen the writing on the wall. And if this dude can play a role in that level where, hey, he can kick off, he can tackle, do these basic things we need on the special team side of things, if he can check those boxes, then it almost becomes like an imperative thing because you keep Butker fresh because we know that the leg is everything. You got to keep him fresh for the postseason, and you don't want to put Justin Reed out there unless you absolutely have to. So it almost becomes like he becomes like a valuable asset. And the other aspect of this is from a marketing standpoint, which is the next part I wanted to talk about. You and I talked on the phone about this, there's a sifting when you have success. You find out who's really down with the cause and who wants to make it about them. And you start to see whether that'll break or make a team. And Tyreek Hill, great asset to this team, Hall of Fame player, all those things. But he wanted to be the guy. He wanted to be more famous than Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. He wanted to be the most important player to the fan base, to the team. And he couldn't live with the fact he never was going to be here in Kansas City. That was a big reason why he left. Now they have the right guys in place that can handle something like this. Let's say that Zammit is just strictly and exclusively special teamer. But he's got a fuck ton of people that love him and pay attention to him, and he's on SportsCenter, or he's doing late nights with Jimmy Fallon, or he's doing like all this cool shit. He's getting real famous. this locker room is the perfect one to handle that. Because Patrick Mahomes this last year, who is the best quarterback in the fucking league, best of all time in my opinion, just had his tight end overtake him as like the most popular player in the league. Did that bother them at all? Did that become a thing? No, they went and won the Super Bowl together, have their maybe best statistical postseason between them during this time. This locker room can handle having another Tim Tebow type of circus around them, where it may not be the guy that his skill set may not match the fame, but the fame's going to be there and you guys can handle it. The Jets couldn't handle it. The Broncos couldn't handle that, but I think the Chiefs could. If that was to happen, let's say that scenario plays out that exact way, and by November, December, Zammit's like this household name that everybody knows about, and he's just this dude on a roster and the grand scheme of things, do you think the Chiefs are going to be able to handle that and there's no issue whatsoever?
Yeah, there's going to be no issue at all. I mean, like you said, most every team, the quarterback is the pinnacle, the face of the franchise. We have a tight end who's the face of the franchise. Be it, what he's done on the field, what he's done off the field, but namely, dating who he's dating, Eras Tour, baby. Like, yeah, our team, I don't think this would ever be a problem in the locker room. Not at all. Winning, that's the thing. Winning cures all. We're winning. It doesn't matter. These guys got the eyes on the chrome. That's all they care about. They don't really, all this other stuff's all fluff. We're chasing championships with other teams. This may be a problem with other teams, but not us when our eyes are on this another Super Bowl. Zammit, yes, the marketability. Let me talk about that. So, good-looking guy. Stud. If you look at him, he's got perfect teeth. He could be, he could be a toothpaste commercial model if he wanted to. Stud. From the United Kingdom too. The United Kingdom is one of the things they're known for. Not having so I mean, he looks great. He's a stud. And one thing when you talk about former rugby guys, most rugby guys who have come over, they come over after they were in their prime, like or toward the tail end. He's like 22. He's coming over pretty early on, and apparently his ultimate goal always was to play in the NFL. That's what his dad played American football in Wales from growing up, so he was always kind of around the football game. Played rugby, but he was always around it because his dad played over there, and his dad was a big Washington Redskins Commanders fan, so he watched a lot of the Redskins Commanders growing up too, which is interesting, I thought. So he's always been around that. So that's always been his goal. But the fact that he's 22, he's going to come over now. I think the closest one that I've seen a lot of our rugby fans who've commented on our YouTube channel. Jared Hayne is a guy. I don't know if you mentioned him. Jared Hayne was a guy that was one of the guys. So he was probably the closest in because he was a running back kick returner type, like 6'2", 200, I think, big dude.
The Bills, wasn't it?
Bills or the Niners, I believe. Because I think it was the Niners, Jared Hayne.
Okay, you might be right.
He came over. He was like 27, 28. Made the team. Reggie Bush vouched for him at the time, I remember. Came over and, really didn't do much. I think he had a muff punt, and then he was cut like a week later during a regular season game. He actually got regular season playing time. Had a muff punt. They cut him. And then I think he attributed it to quitting football because he didn't want to learn the playbooks because the playbooks were too big, and he didn't want to learn the American football playbooks. But I think the guy was like 28 going on 30. He was way done. He was done at that point. This kid is 22 in the prime of his rugby career, so he's willing to sacrifice what he can be making over there, which is probably not a lot of money compared to what a minimum contract is here. But he's sacrificing his rugby career to come here and to buy in on himself. So he's betting on himself in this respect. And they also signed him to like a 3-year deal too. So that's also like where I think they do see something in him, be it this Swiss Army knife on the special teams realm, which I think that's going to be his meal ticket. That's going to be his Charlie Bucket golden ticket, is this kind of special teams wheelhouse kind of thing. Because I do think there is something to that. I think the Chiefs Toub's going to exploit this kickoff rule that we have now. But the marketability factor, I think the NFL has been trying really hard to kind of expand the NFL's reach across the globe. And they're trying. That's why it used to be just games in London. Now we're doing games everywhere. Brazil, Germany, everywhere. They're doing it now. And when you see things like this, a guy who hasn't even played football yet, the guy may not even have number 9 when the season comes out. I mean, the fact that his jersey's at number 3 behind Kelsey, Mahomes, and then him in Europe, NFL seeing that. I mean, Roger Goodell's tail's wagging seeing that. Clark Hunt's tail's wagging seeing that because we're just going over the Taylor Swift saga right now. That guy took NFL to new heights, no pun intended there. And now we're talking about this rugby guy who's selling jerseys. And this guy's never played it down before in his life, never played football before in his life. And we're talking about that. I mean, JD and I had this whole conversation of merit versus marketability. And yeah, like, let's say it's LRZ and this other guy at the end we're talking about here. And it's like, well, this guy's selling jerseys. No one knows who this guy is, even though he's better than LRZ, but no one knows where he's from. No one knows anything about him. But meanwhile, we got this other guy who's making us money in Europe. Let's go with this guy. And I think that's where the marketability factor comes in. That's where if he doesn't, or if he does do this kicker, if he's our kicker on kickoffs, that's great. But he's bringing something to the team and to the NFL that other guy who's trying to crack the roster spot's not. And I think that's where the marketability goes into, and that's where it comes into this whole game of, wow, so we're valuing marketability and money over merit of the game, and that also ties into the whole, Caitlin Clark USA team thing, which is a very similar argument. Whereas, are we keeping her on a team because we're going to bring tickets and eyes to the Washington USA women's basketball? Or are we going to know she hasn't played long enough, she's not that good yet, yada, yada, yada. So that there's a lot of ties in this overlap with this whole marketability factor with this LRZ thing, which is a very interesting discussion and makes the offseason so much more interesting comparatively to the weeks leading up to training camp in years past. Because I think this is just a thing we've never had to deal with before in the Chiefs world, at least.
Now, one more thing here from you, Marcus, and dude, again, thank you so much for your time, brother. When it comes to this team in totality, moving forward, we know that this is right now, odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. Either at plus 600, if I'm not mistaken, tied with the Niners. I think of all the teams that have repeated as champions, the Chiefs have by far, and it's not even close, the best chance of three-peating. It's, to me, it'd be crazy not to think this team can three-peat, as opposed to saying that they will, as nuts as that sounds, because it's never happened before. But I do believe the chances are really there for them to do this. The AFC right now, I know everybody thinks it's the harder conference, and I would probably agree. But I don't think, and maybe this is just the arrogance in me because of how the Chiefs still found a way to win the Super Bowl last year with such an inept offense going on the road. I'm not sure that the Chiefs have a real counterpart out there, that unless they do what they did in 2021 against the Bengals, or have just horrific play like D Ford lining up off sides again in 2018, unless something like that happens, it's hard for me to imagine there's a team out there, a quarterback out there in particular, that can take the Chiefs down legitimately and hold them back from at least getting back to the Super Bowl for a third consecutive time. My question is, do you agree? And if you don't, who is that team? Who is that quarterback? Because all respect to Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, the emergence of C.J. Stroud, and some of these other young hopefuls, none of these guys are even in the same tier as Patrick Mahomes. And I think when it comes to the team play and the way these teams play in the biggest moments, coaching-wise, strategy-wise, ability-wise, it doesn't feel that close. Am I off here? Or do you agree, disagree? Like, I need to get some people's thoughts on this before the season starts, because I'm feeling like a freaking homer here, man. Like, I'm really trying to pull myself back because it almost feels wrong. Because I'm usually the guy that's like, oh man, I don't know, this team's got issues. But despite their issues, I feel such a calmness. This thing about it where if they could go through what they did last season, by far the worst wide receiver room that Patrick Mahomes is ever going to have, hopefully. And a defense that may not be as great, but I think can be just as good in certain areas. If they just have those things down again, where they just get a little better in the wide receiver room, and their defense may not be as dominant, but it's top 10, which I still fully believe they're going to be, isn't that just enough for them to do what they've been doing? Like, maybe I'm crazy, but it feels like a three-peat is a real thing here, man.
100%. And I think you kind of hit the nose here on this whole thing. what we had to endure last year, the fact that we won a Super Bowl with what we endured last year with that worst wide receiver group in the league, the drops, the penalties, and we won it last year, and then we've only gotten better. Yes, we lost L'Jarius Sneed. Yeah, we won't have Omenihu for half the season next year, but we didn't have Omenihu for 6 weeks last year, and then we didn't have him in the Super Bowl. We didn't have him in the second half of the AFC Championship game, so that's not a thing. FAU, hopefully, we have an emergence like the way we did with Carl Loftus, and if FAU does emerge like the way Carl Loftus did in his sophomore year, then Omenihu is only going to be a luxury when he does come back. So that's something that's going to just kind of keep an eye on. But the fact that we endured last year and we still won it, I think that's what gives everybody, the 3-peating is legitimate. It's 100%. Usually it's like, and I see in the chat, Ruben DeCruz, we need health and a little luck. Yeah, the health and the luck is going to come together big time. And that's with any team. And my biggest thing as far as the health aspect of things, Kelsey's getting older, but I think we have enough pieces around him now. The Hollywood Brown's going to make a tremendous difference, especially he's on a prove-it deal. And then, and obviously, everyone is always healthy miraculously during a prove-it deal. But Hollywood's going to tear it up this year, I think. I really do think so. All you fantasy guys, lock in on Hollywood Brown. And I think you can probably get him round 5, round 6 in redrafts for sure. Because, I think people are just kind of hesitant with Hollywood Brown for whatever reason. And Rashee Rice may not be there. So Hollywood Brown's going to be our number 1 because of that. And I think he'll still be putting up wide receiver 1 numbers even with Rashee Rice. That'll only help. But offensively, we're just so much better. Xavier Worthy, when I'm mentioning him, I am concerned about the hamstring, though. That is interesting. He never had any injuries in college where he missed games, played with a broken hand. But we're talking about a small guy with already hamstring issues. That's something to keep an eye on. And I guess my only fear about this team this upcoming season, it's not fear. It's just more like I need to see it. I need to see what it looks like. Is obviously the wide receiver group to make sure, as long as these guys stay healthy and there's no suspensions, I'm happy with it. And Kelsey, injuries, fine. Because that tight end room is badass too. My only thing is left tackle position. And I know you're a big Kingsley guy, but we're banking on a lot for a rookie to come in here and just be that guy. And then you have Wanye, Kingsley. Are those two enough to be Patrick's blindside guy? And that's my only thing where, I think 3-peat's definitely on the table, even with regardless of who fill in the blank on that left tackle spot. Because Wanye did play a good chunk of the season last year as our left tackle, and we still won it. But that's the only thing where I'm like, what's going on with that spot? And then if Pacheco goes down, CH is going to be our bell cow next year. Those are the only two things. If I had my only 2 fears of what could be our potential letdown would be left tackle just being a hole, and if Pacheco gets dinged up, which he's lost weight, and I don't know if he's trying to get ready to be our 3-down back guy where he's our McKinnon, but he's lost some weight. He plays aggressive. Unless he's changing his running style, he's likely to get hurt and dinged up, and we have CH backing him up. Now, if you trust CH, great. And there's some CH truthers out there. I may not be one of them, but there's some truthers out there for CH still. But Pacheco's backup and our left tackle spot. Those are the only 2 things that I'm just I have a little bit of hesitancy there. But, 100%. I don't think there's another team that can really hang with us. But those are the only 2 spots. But every team has a hole or 2. It's not like we're the only ones that have a hole in a certain spot. Teams have more holes than just 2. But those are the only 2 where I'm like, I want to keep an eye on that. And those are the only things I'm worried about as far as going into training camp.
I'm so excited for Marcus because he's going to be watching Chiefs games this year, and he's going to be looking at that number 76 over there on the left side of the offensive line going, let me check my glasses. Is that Kingsley Suamataia or is that Willie Roaf? I can't tell. That guy is good. Woo.
That's high praise there, Bob. That's high praise there, man. I know you're a big fan, but you've been loving this guy for 2 months before this draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you think are you want to make a bet right now he's the week 1 starter left tackle?
I look, this is how confident I will let Marcus name the price of the bet, because Kingsley Suamataia is so much better as a left tackle than Wanye Morris or anybody else on this roster that I'm guaranteeing you he will be the week 1 starter unless he gets injured or banged up. This dude you ask any person that watches offensive line. I was talking to Willie Roaf. We were talking to other people about this, and obviously you and JD are friends with Willie Roaf, so I'm sure he'll tell you guys. This kid's got every measurable you can want. Like, if you go look at him and Joe Alt, like, everybody's big on Joe Alt. You know, he's the top 5 pick. Kingsley is bigger
right
than
tackle.
him. Huh?
Yeah.
The right tackle, Joe
right,
Alt,
yeah.
which is pathetic that
Right.
they're playing a right tackle.
But what I mean is, like, if you look at their measurables, Kingsley is just as big and has bigger hands than Joe Alt, who was, like, hailed as, like, this guaranteed thing, which we all liked and loved and everything. But, like, this guy's got the measurables, and the Chiefs, in my opinion, have the best offensive line coach and Andy Reid, who knows interior better than any coach in the NFL. Like, if there's going to be a team that gets the most out of Kingsley Suamataia, it's going to be this team right here. And I think he landed at the perfect spot. I know it's cool because the BYU connection between him and Andy, but I think this dude is everything the Chiefs have been waiting for the last couple of years out of their left tackle position since losing Eric Fisher. I think this dude is a decade-plus guy. I really, really believe that, man. And I think we're going to look back and say that might have been Brett Veach's best pick, man, because that dude solidified the second most important position on the field. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I won't.
Dude, I hope you're right. I'm not doubting it at all. I mean, I'm not doubting what you say. It's just one of those things. It's an unknown variable right now. You know, and yeah, he looked great. He was a late second round pick for a reason, but again, it's an unknown variable. Whereas Wanye, he did look, you know, he wasn't our left tackle of the future by any means, but it's a year under his belt, which Kingsley does not have, and a year playing left tackle for Patrick Mahomes. So now he's learned a little bit more about the position. And quite frankly, he was a right tackle at Oklahoma, and we moved him over to left tackle to play last year. So that's not the easiest thing for a guy to do. Yeah. And you know, and he did it for the Chiefs of all teams. And we talk about the coaching. Andy Heck, also my high school alum, Andy Heck, what's high school baby. You know, he's a great coach, and it's a year under his belt with him. So, I mean, I think that automatically gives him a leg up. And if Kingsley takes the job, great. That means Kingsley looked amazing in practice and training camp. But again, it's just the unknown variable, and that's where it's like, yeah, we hit on a lot of guys, but Sky Moore, we also don't hit on some guys too, you know. So it's like it's just the unknown variable. That's why I can't wait to see what he looks like in preseason and in training camp.
Yeah, and you can tell that one he's stressing about it because he's out here smoking joints out here in Kansas. So he's definitely trying to get through it right now. In all seriousness, though, I think Wanye does have a future here in Kansas City. I just don't think it's going to be a left tackle. I think you should pay attention to two positions. I think he's going to either be the successor of a Joe Thuney at left guard after this season, or you could see him becoming the next right tackle whenever the Jawan Taylor contract comes up, because I think that Wanye's got skill. He's got a big body to him, big frame. He played guard and tackle. I think the Chiefs really like him. I agree with you on that. I think Andy Heck's going to continue to coach the heck out of him. I just think that when it comes to natural ability, you know, being born to play a position, I think left tackle is more of Kingsley's lane, whereas Wanye is going to be more of like a swing tackle / guard kind of guy, a dude that you need, you know, like an Allegretti, that when you need to call upon him, he can be there and he can fill that role and help basically save your season. I think that's what Wanye is. But wait, I'm here to watch. I'm here to see what happens, and that's the beauty of all this. Marcus, you know, with the tan, the hair, and the pink shirt, man, you kind of look like that guy Fabrizio, the hairstylist at Sephora that steals your wife from you. I'm a home wrecker. I'm a home wrecker here. I really appreciate you coming on the show and wrecking our house here for a little bit with all these facts and stats and dropping the knowledge on everything, bro. We really appreciate you, man. Before you get out of here, tell people where they can find your hairstylist, your copper tone. Which one? SP, is it SP 50 or whatever it is?
I actually need a haircut, man. I try combing my hair, but before I came on, my hair's really it's too curly right now.
We don't know anything about hair around here, so
it's just naturally like this. I woke up like this, boys. But no, let the people know where they can find all your guys' stuff, man, because you guys put out the most quality content in the community. I truly believe that. I don't just say that because you're my bud. It's because I truly enjoy your guys' content. You guys have the most unique perspective because you have the former player, you have the reporter, you have Tasia, there's this brainiac that has his own thoughts and opinions. You guys have a really good, unique thing. You what?
He's our salary cap guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's your capologist. He's Brett Tillis. But let the people know where they can find your stuff, man. What days you guys are on, what nights you guys are on, and when they can watch Cobra Kai play football.
Ooh, I appreciate you, brother. So Mondays we do during the season we do a draft grade show where we look at the game for the night before and we grade the show out. During the off season, it's just we leave it up to you all in the chat, so you guys can come and ask JD or myself any questions you guys have, and that's our Monday morning tight end show, and then Wednesdays our weekly Chief Concerns show. You guys can follow us, Chief Concerns, on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts. But obviously during the season we'll have a lot of good stuff because we have streams almost every day with Bleacher Report, so we're busy in season, but off season Mondays and Wednesdays you guys can find us, and we post clips daily. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on coming this year, and hopefully it's a long season again. I was gonna call you JD. See, Lance, I'm gonna call you JD. That's how often I'm on shows with JD.
Am I getting that buff, dude? Oh shit! All right,
it's all the trash.
So JD, I'm coming for him.
Yeah.
They start wearing like flat bills, start just like JD. I'm starting to kind of look like JD a little bit, man. I'm feeling kind of good about myself here.
It's the triceps, man. You're on Trevor's workout regimen.
There you go.
We love you, brother. As you can tell, the comments, everybody's big fans of you guys over at CC. We represent you guys all the time. You guys are our best pals. Whenever we can have you guys on the show, we do. And this is the reason why right here. It's an awesome community we have here, bro. We have the same mindset. We all help each other out, and it's a blast every single year. I'm so glad you guys are a part of this. We're happy to be with you guys as well. Let's keep doing this thing, man. It's an absolute blast every single time. Love you to death, Marcus. Have an awesome Saturday. Keep kicking ass, brother, and we will talk soon, my dude.
You too, fellas. Love you guys. Take it easy,
Love
guys.
You, man. Later.
That is our guy, Marcus Dash, man. One of the best dudes in the business. I was not kidding, though, about the whole, like, he looks like the dude that, like, your wife's like, hey, I got this new hairstylist, and I'm divorcing you for him. That's what he looks like right now. He's all sitting here trying to be modest about, I need a haircut.
He does my hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Marcus with the good hair. That's what he is right now.
Shampoos me well. Yeah.
It's a lather and repeat. Rinse and repeat. You were there for 4 hours, Bethany.
I had a lot of split ends, okay? Jesus, dude.
I am a Marcus Dash. No, I was kidding, man. That's my guy, man. We love him to death, dude. He's the best dude in the world, man. JD and him they have the best show, dude. Because JD will just go on like these 20-minute rants, and Marcus is just like,
yeah, he's a Reverend JD over there, man.
And Marcus is like, Marcus stays in tune, dude. I'm like, I love it because JD he'll do that, and then Marcus has like another great question, then JD does it again, or Tasia will come with some bad stuff, like some badass stuff, and it's just a great show, man. So I hope you guys are subscribed to them because, quite frankly, I mean they have a very big following on YouTube.
Yeah,
it needs to be way bigger than what
enough.
it is. Oh my, I mean it's ridiculous. Their numbers should be way bigger than what it is. It's stupid, like the amount of work and time they put into what they do, their craft. I mean it's such good quality material, man. They need to have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of subscribers. So if you haven't already done it, man, even like if you want to leave the show real quick, go to Chief Concerns, go subscribe, and then come hang back with us, guys. We have a little bit more to show for you guys today, but they're my favorite show for a reason. Love them, love all Chiefed Up. You guys know those are our boys over there as well, the Williams brothers. Great community we have here, man, and it's great. It's great too because we all kind of have like our own days. We like take shifts. All Chiefed Up will do some like weekend stuff here and there, but like they kind of work throughout the week too. So
and they don't want to compete with us on Saturdays.
I mean, yeah, because we'll whoop that ass. That's what we do. We clean up on the weekends, baby boy. So no, but thanks, Marcus Dash. We appreciate it. Go follow him, guys. Follow all their work, and we'll leave it to that, man. But Trevor, we need to get to the people, man, because it's 12:30 and we've been making them wait for too damn long. Let's go on. What's going on? Speak it.
All right, so from the top rope, we got our guy Dustin Norton on YouTube. Speak it. What's your thoughts on Orlando Brown claiming of Lamar, Mahomes, or Burrow? He believes Burrow is the best. Think it's how he feels or what he has to say since it's his QB?
Well, let me ask you a question. If Orlando Brown was to somehow come back to the Chiefs, do you think he's still saying Joe Burrow's the best quarterback in the league? No. It's what it is. It's all about what they call it, happenstance. Is that what they call that? Like, where you happen to be is what you happen to talk about, and it happens to be the best place you have ever been, and it's always the greatest. And look, Joe Burrow, I have a hot take right now. I don't even know if he's the top 5 quarterback in the league right now, and it's because of the fact of his injury concerns, and because of the fact he's missed a lot of time in his career, and the fact in the postseason he's actually been pretty damn underwhelming. If I'm going to be totally honest with you, he's had a couple big moments in the postseason, but overall he's been very subpar. I think Joe Burrow has gotten a lot of greatness attached to him naturally because of how great that one season was at LSU.
Yeah.
How cool he is, how handsome he is. Like, it's easy to like Joe Burrow, or it's easy to hate him too.
He's got swag.
He's polarizing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He's got that vibe to that aura. He's got that aura about him. So naturally, I think you think that he's just the greatest thing ever. And when he has been healthy, to his credit, he's put up big numbers. But I also think that's attributed to the fact that he's got a fuck ton of weapons in Cincinnati, and I'd be very
one of the best young coaches in the league for sure.
Yeah, and I'll be really interested to see what happens if and when the day comes where he doesn't have all these weapons that he has right now with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and all these other pieces. So he won't have Joe Mixon this year either, which will be very interesting because Joe Mixon's been a nice little escape valve for
especially
Joe.
Late in the year. Yeah,
yeah, and their offensive line hopefully will be better because Amarius Mims is a stud out of the draft.
Yeah.
If he doesn't pop and they continue to struggle at offensive line, I mean, Joe's health concerns are there, and they're talking about his throwing hand. He has an injury to it that he said he'll never be able to throw the ball the same way again. And if you've seen some of the videos at a training camp, he doesn't really have a lot of he's never really had pepper on the ball. Like he's not a spitfire fastball type of quarterback, but it does look like he kind of struggles to get zip on the ball at all. And that's something you should be paying attention to, guys, as well. So Joe Burrow, when healthy, I think without question is an elite quarterback, but that's the problem. He's not healthy enough for me to sit here and just keep giving him that type of credit and that type of praise. And to bring it back to Orlando Brown, that's his quarterback, so of course he's going to say things like that. But Orlando Brown knows in his core and in his strength, there's a reason he has a ring on his hand, and it's not because of Joe Burrow. It's because of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and I remember when Devontae Adams went from the Packers to the Raiders, and he said, I'm going from one Hall of Famer to another. Listen, these guys will say anything to keep the morale of the team that they're currently on, and it's smart. Obviously, it's smart. I mean, you don't have to open your mouth and say those things, but if you're asked about those things, you're put on the spot. Of course, you're going to support your guy that you're playing with. And I think Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks of football when healthy. I just kind of think he has that it factor. Granted, like you said, his statistics and so on and so forth in the postseason have been a little underwhelming, and he has had some really low lows.
Right.
Like, he's had some games that are like, God damn, some of the worst quarterbacks even have those kind of games. So he's had some really, really bad lows. He eventually digs himself out of it, but he's had some stretches of games. It's just he looks terrible.
Right.
So he does have that in him as well. So he does have to get it together and stay healthy that's the main thing is him being able to stay healthy. He's had some weird injuries and some major injuries already in his young career. So if this continue to pile up, he's not going to be great for very long. or be around for very long. We have worries about Lamar Jackson staying healthy. I mean, I'm less worried about him than I am Joe Burrow.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Our guy James T. Kirk said the beard is certainly buffed. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, sir. We saw our guy G-Pick. Shout out G-Pick for jumping in. He said, he's talking about Marcus. Need to get that guy in a Head and Shoulders commercial with Patrick. Definitely agree. I'm sure they can make that work. Yo, Trev, I like the hat.
Appreciate you.
So shout out. My hat's pretty cool too, so fuck you, G-Pick. Yeah, and Julia makes a good point. She said, Brown whiffing on blocks is why Burrow was hurt. I don't give a fuck what he thinks. Glad he's gone. I was a Brown guy, but, it's hard to debate sometimes when he gave up a lot of pressures, and Joe Burrow's not as nimble as Patrick, and so it looks a lot worse when you give up pressures to a quarterback who's a statue like Joe Burrow.
I mean, can't say much else for that. All right, so next one from our guy, Dustin Orton. Speak it. Best, this is a random question. I want to throw this one in the mix. Best from Marvel versus best from DC. Who are they and who wins?
Best from Marvel.
Marvel wins every time.
Like one-on-one, like the best superhero?
Didn't really specify.
Hold on. Okay, let me ask Justin. If you are asking me like 1v1 best of the best, Marvel's better, but Superman kills everybody.
Sure. So
DC wins this one. Let's just look. I won't go down the whole fucking rabbit hole, but if we're doing that, if we're saying like, Spider-Man versus Superman, Superman's clearing them. Sorry, guys. Or Hulk or whoever. Captain America, my favorite of all time.
Deadpool kills all of them, man. I don't give a shit.
Stop it. Maybe in a cuss-out fest, but I'm talking about, like, when it comes to just what he can do. That's why Superman movies are so hard to market, because he's got everything. The only weakness man has is some bullshit rock on Krypton because it exploded in the universe, and you can't find it anywhere except unless you're Lex Luthor.
I mean, I think Thor would be a fun battle to watch with Superman, but I definitely there's some battles that could be had from the Marvel side, but
Superman kicks everyone. Put it like 3 versus 1. Pick the best 3 Marvel dudes against Superman. Superman's beating the fuck out of them.
Easy, dude.
Come on, dude. We're talking about Superman.
He probably wins one-on-ones, but I think if you pair up,
the only way you could beat him is if you have Kryptonite.
yeah,
He's invincible. Like,
so go
literally
get
invincible.
some and beat his ass. He's
Just go find some Kryptonite.
He's also got one of the biggest weaknesses for sure, and that Kryptonite is a significant
Listen
weakness.
to G-Pick. Superman the GOAT.
Of course. I mean, DC cheated. They just made the man impossible to beat.
They made the invincible figurehead, and that's where DC stays relevant. Whereas Marvel has more consistently awesome storylines, better characters, all that stuff.
Yeah,
DC has Superman.
Yeah.
Hey, Batman's cool, but he's not a superhero.
Batman's
a vigilante.
Yeah,
people don't understand that.
But he's the man though.
Batman has no
Batman
superhero
is the shit,
abilities.
bro.
I love Bruce Wayne. I love Batman. I'm just saying he's human. He's a dude with tons of money that makes cool shit.
Fun conversation there. Appreciate that question. I always like those off the wall ones. Our guy Michael Maldonado. Thoughts on what Rich Eisen said on his show about the worst case scenario segment when he said the Raiders will win AFC West and would end the Chiefs 3-peat in the playoffs.
Well, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never done ayahuasca, but I mean, I could picture that if I was on something like that. Sure. Rich Eisen, I love him because of the fact that he's talking about like worst case scenario, because the worst case scenario for Rich Eisen the year before was when he picked the Raiders to win the division, and he had to eat that. So I think Rich is definitely just.
Well, it's funny that his pick from last year is now the worst case scenario. You know what I mean? So I don't know. He needs to take one of those silent retreats with Aaron Rodgers, in my personal opinion. He can join him on that one because that's kind of going to be a foot in the mouth situation there real quick once the season gets going. We kind of see who is who once again. So yeah, I mean we're not doing the L segment, but that's definitely L worthy take there. I saw that earlier this week, and
see James T. Kirk. Damn, that's a good question, Dustin. I'm a Marvel guy, but Superman is probably going to beat everyone. I mean, he said everyone.
I did deny it. But I think the God of Thunder, my guy Thor would definitely put up a battle. Let's chill now. Let's not act like Superman's out here breaking out the mop and just squeaking through everybody. That's not happening. But
Superman whoops Thor in his
you know Superman's been killed before, right? Doomsday killed Superman.
How did he do it, Trev?
Kryptonite and spiked his ass to death.
Yes.
Yeah.
So unless Thor's got bolts of kryptonite,
I don't remember who killed Thor though.
That's because everybody feels bad because he's so handsome. He's like, wow, he's got cool hair. He's got muscles.
God of Thunder, dude. That hammer is one of the best weapons in all of comic book history.
Nobody wants to kill the
And he's a real
guy.
demigod. He's a real demigod. He's not. You know what I mean? He's not some created or.
Look what you created, Justin.
He's real.
Dustin.
He's real lore.
Thanks, Dustin.
He predates
Justin.
comic books.
Thanks, Dustin, for bringing up superheroes.
Odin and Thor, I think, could definitely challenge Superman. If I'm being honest.
That ass.
Anyways, in recent news, next one from our pal over here, Julia Gulia. Spags was seen hovering around rookie Curtis Jacobs, linebacker. Last time he was observed doing the same was with Brian Cook. Good sign.
This is dude. When our guys at All Chief Up asked who's our favorite UDFA signed, I said Curtis Jacobs was mine. I believe out of Penn State, if I'm not mistaken. He has some issues. He has some limitations, as our guy Mike Williams did allude to.
Yeah.
But this dude can tackle like a motherfucker. And that is what this team loves out of their middle linebackers, is guys that can just decleat
He's
dudes.
a dog.
Yes, to play more of that old school, like Nick Bolton plays more old school style of football. Downhill runner, can just absolutely just end a play with one big hit. And I think Curtis Jacobs has that ability. And I think that Curtis Jacobs, who I don't believe is going to be a guy that the Chiefs view as a replacement for Nick Bolton, but if he can play a role and, let's say Bolton goes down with another injury, you obviously have Drew Tranquil that fills in, but then you have Curtis Jacobs that kind of steps into as that, that safety valve. Then you have that much more depth and reliability from a guy who's played. I think he played all 4 years of college. So I like the signing. I think Spags loves the signing, and I think he could be one of those surprise pieces that later down the year when attrition starts to take its shape and guys are hurt, Curtis Jacobs steps in and has like a 7 tackles game where people are like, wait, where the fuck this kid come from? I think that you can see that happen.
Agreed. Next one from Julia Gulia. A couple seasons ago, everybody was having concerns, no pun intended, about, this was when we were having, about Toub. Now we're all singing his praises. What do y'all think changed that narrative?
Nothing changed that narrative. Listen,
He's been great. It's just he has ups and downs.
Look, nuance is everything.
Yeah.
You have got to be able to criticize people and praise them at the same, not the same time, but simultaneously almost. Like where if Toub fucks up, I'm going to sit here on the show and say Toub fucked up and he needs to stop. Yeah. We've done that before. But you know what I also want to do is I'm going to say, you know what? Toub is one of the best special teams minds in the NFL probably ever. And the results have been there more times than not. And there's a reason why Andy Reid trusts him the way he does, and the results are there for that as well. So I'm going to give Toub praise and credit for the things he deserves, but I'm also going to criticize him whenever he deserves that too. He's not above that.
Yeah, Andy Reid gets the same treatment.
Oh man, we've criticized Andy Reid tons of times.
Yeah, you live by the sword and die by the sword with Andy Reid.
We've criticized Patrick Mahomes.
Of course.
Everybody deserves criticism. So trust me when I say we will sing praises when it's due, and we will criticize when due. That is what we do. I can't speak for everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, other people can be inconsistent about those things. I can't speak for them. I can speak for us here, and I will tell you, we will keep it 100% at all times. If they do something that is wrong, we will talk about it in a way that is deserving of criticism. Yeah. If they do something right, we're up here Celine Dion and that shit, bro. We're singing that shit about how awesome he was.
Yeah, I mean, don't get it twisted. If there was an emergency vacancy at head coach for this Chiefs team, Dave Toub is stepping in to fill in that role. Yeah, that's Andy Reid. That's Andy Reid. That's Andy Reid's guy, bro. Like, you know, he's going to step that. He would be the emergency.
I think it would outsource, but you're probably right. If they had to pick somebody from their current staff.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And but I mean, no one's safe from in these criticism streets, though. So I mean, anybody's going to get it when it's deserved. So he's had his moments where he's had some boneheaded things, and what I like about Toub though, he doesn't shy away from his integrity as far as like him being responsible for mistakes. He typically owns up pretty quickly, and I've always liked that and respected that about him. But yeah, I get it. Our guy James T. Kirk, SAS Stephen A. Smith is under fire again for his JJ Redick take. Was Smith wrong for thinking LBJ conspired to get Darvin Ham fired for JJ?
Yes, because there's no proof of that.
We do this every time with LeBron, dude.
There's no reason.
Every time.
What's Steve?
Coach Killer.
I choose every day to wake up and like Stephen A. because I think more times than not he's entertaining and he brings a style to sports talk that no one else has ever before, where he articulates himself really well. And he makes valid points, but at the same time, Stephen A. sticks his foot in his mouth so much, and it always has to do with LeBron James.
Well, and the irony is MJ literally did this.
That's okay.
MJ, the guy he stands for, MJ literally did this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know we'll get there, but it's just funny coming from Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah. Stephen A. is there's a certain level of jealousy I think he has with what JJ Redick and LeBron James built. Yeah. Because he won't stop talking about their podcast when it literally has nothing to do with anything that has anything to do with the head coaching situation.
Yeah.
They didn't build that podcast because of the fact that JJ Redick was going to be their new head coach, because we didn't know that was going to happen, because they literally were on the edge of hiring Dan Hurley from UConn.
Which I would have loved that as well.
Yeah.
I've been a great
There was other guys. And here's the thing, guys. Darvin Ham got himself fired.
His rotations were garbage.
I'm so sick of people like putting it on LeBron James that a coach isn't good enough. You guys remember when David Blatt tried to call a timeout with no timeouts left? LeBron had to save him from that.
Who do you think knows more basketball better, LeBron James or Darvin Ham?
That's what I'm saying. And like Darvin Ham didn't know
even
how
if
to
LeBron
take
James
timeouts.
did influence that.
He didn't know in-game adjustments. He didn't know this shit. So Darvin Ham got himself fired because, as we remember, the Lakers have told us, LeBron's campus told us, that LeBron doesn't have a say in who their coach is. He doesn't hire, he doesn't fire. People are giving him way too much freaking credit for what goes on with coaching staffs. Okay. It's insane, man.
Okay, James T. Kirk followed up, but Trevor, you're off base. MJ did not get multiple coaches fired. I'm not saying he got multiple coaches fired, nor did LeBron James. But you're going to tell me MJ didn't influence the Phil Jackson hiring and him refusing to play for anybody else, vocalizing that he's refusing to play for anyone else?
Well, how about this?
You don't think that swayed
what happened
the
when Jerry
decisions?
Krause told Phil Jackson he's not coming back in '99?
Right.
What did Michael do?
This is what I'm saying.
Michael retired.
He didn't have influence. Yeah, he didn't decide to cop out and just leave the game when he didn't get the coach that he wanted. Come on, man. That's even worse. Stop it. Anyways.
Oh, James, if you could, stick around for L's. Got something for you.
It's a treat. James follows that up with another question. Please tell Sugar Sean O'Malley he has zero chance versus Tank Davis in a boxing match. This is Sean. This is Sugar Sean. Just, I think in a straight up boxing match, yeah, I'm taking Tank. That's tough. Sugar Sean has great hands.
I don't even know how this is a conversation.
Yeah, but I mean,
Tank
if we're in an octagon, Tank has zero chance.
Tank is a boxer.
Yeah.
And he's a world-class boxer.
Yeah.
If him and Sugar Sean fought in boxing rules, he murders Sugar Sean. Like, if Floyd Mayweather if it was actually more about than just the money, Floyd Mayweather would have picked apart McGregor.
Yeah.
They were having fun.
Oh, yeah, they
were having fun.
They milked that baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
If Floyd went in there with the intention of killing Floyd or McGregor with his fists, he would have. McGregor is as great of a striker as he is from the UFC side of things, the MMA side of things. You can't compare the two. The hand speed, the efficiency, the way because the hands are everything for boxers. When it comes to MMA, man, you have all different types of body parts you got to watch out for. So your hands are just one of them. When it comes to boxing, that's it. Those are the weapons. So it's a different game, man. But like you said, Trevor, put Tank Davis in an octagon with Sugar Sean, 30 seconds, Sugar Sean kills him.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
that's
not
a whole
even a
different
debate.
environment. Yeah, Tank's special, man. Tank's one of the best ever. So, right. Last one from our guy, Michael Maldonado. Will Dak be the first $60 million quarterback for the Cowboys or $60 million for a new team next offseason?
If the Cowboys are smart, they pay Dak Prescott.
Yeah, he's their best bet.
Look,
he's a very good quarterback.
And I'm not even the biggest Dak defender when it comes to the postseason woes. But the Cowboys this is the only choice that the Cowboys have. And I like either one of them, to be honest with you, but I think sticking with Dak's the better choice. They move off of Dak and let him go to greener pastures or just, get another opportunity to play, somewhere else and maybe succeed. And they go with Trey Lance. Or they stick with Dak Prescott and pay him what his market value is going to be regardless of where he plays. And you try to build the best team around him and see if he can continue to get into the postseason and see if he can finally get over that hump. The problem that the Cowboys have is not even on the field. It's throughout the organization, man. It's the decision makers.
Yep.
They make good rosters, but they always put an inept coach in that place. Like Mike McCarthy's a good coach.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why it's been almost 30 years since the Cowboys have had real success in the postseason. Because Jerry Jones doesn't want another Jimmy Johnson. Whether they've made up or not, and I believe they have, they've shown that and everything. Jimmy Johnson, we're going to talk about this next week. Jimmy Johnson was on his way as the Cowboys head coach to building the greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL. They had won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. They were going to continue to win Super Bowls. But Jerry Jones wasn't getting the attention, he wasn't getting the credit, and he didn't want that, and he made sure that never would happen again. They won another Super Bowl with Barry Switzer, but Barry Switzer was coaching Jimmy Johnson's team the very next year. So that wasn't even Barry Switzer's credit. But Barry Switzer didn't have the magnitude that Jimmy did. So Jerry got all the credit for that third Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But since then, they've been hiring guys like Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy, guys that are going to get you to the postseason, but never going to win meaningful games because they just don't have what it takes unless they have an all-time great quarterback like Aaron Rodgers back in 2010. That's the only thing. So Dak Prescott's not their problem. I think Dak Prescott right now is a top 5 quarterback in this league. I think he gets shit on for the things that are above his pay grade, even if he makes 60.
Especially as a dual threat. Like he's a very good runner too. When he needs to be, he's a tough guy to bring down. And he's fought through some major injuries
Jesus
too.
Christ, chief concerns.
I
Dak
just put-
the Raiders
yeah.
and offseason. Fuck that, dude. Look, I'm confident the Chiefs will still beat the Raiders.
That would be
but
a great
That
fit.
would fucking suck, dude.
That'd be a great fit
That
for
would
Raiders.
be by far the Raiders' best quarterback since Rich Gannon.
Yeah.
That'd be by far their best quarterback since Rich Gannon.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, he's
Fuck that. I don't want Dak.
That could happen though. I'm not gonna
Christ. You have Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, and then Bo Nix.
Bo next. That's it for the questions, man. I appreciate you guys.
Great
man.
shit, guys.
This has been a great show so far. You guys are always great in the chat. But it always picks up around this time because we start kind of diving into people's takes and people want to bring up MJ and things like that.
Don't worry.
So, yeah,
We're gonna talk about that.
I
in a
just wanted
second.
to throw that out there again so we can warm it up.
We like doing that.
Thank you
yes,
guys for the questions.
You guys are awesome, and you guys hang tough, and you guys stick with us throughout the entire show, which I absolutely love. I love the attention span y'all got, man. It's amazing that you guys want to hang out with us. So we have one more order of business to get to, Trevor. What's it called?
Hold this L.
Each and every episode, we finish every single episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are friendly or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, whoever is holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. Trevor Twidwell, Who's holding L for you this week?
So my L is going to Justin Timberlake. No, I'm just kidding. Get better, my guy. That's my boy, Justin Timberlake. Please, just get yourself right, buddy. Hire a driver, for Christ's sake. You're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't understand it. Never will understand it when these guys continue to drive. If you're going to do illicit drugs, just fucking have someone drive you around, dude. That mugshot's rough. No, my L is gonna go to your boy Matthew Stafford.
Why would you
listen?
Why are you gonna do this?
This has to be addressed.
No, it ain't.
All right, from man to man. Unless him and his wife are working on some kind of TV reality show after his career is over and said and done. But I don't know. Some of you may have seen it. Some of you may have not. Matthew Stafford's wife was on a podcast just this week and decided to, for some whatever reason, I'm sure he had an approval. I'm hoping. Maybe I'm hoping not. I'm hoping she did this without his approval, because if he approved this kind of information to get out about him and his story and their story together and their romance, if you want to call it that, she came out and basically spilled the beans on their relationship and basically went on to tell how terrible a person she was and how awful of a girlfriend she was to him, and he still chose her. But I'm gonna let her do it for you. Say it for me, so you guys can kind of understand where I'm getting at. This was her on a recent podcast talking about her dating life in college and with Matthew Stafford. Let me get it here.
Matthew's so sweet and southern gentleman and all that stuff, and the was the complete opposite. Yeah. Ooh, and it upset him. So they lived in the same dorm, because athletes lived in the same dorm, and he would see my car there. And so at one point, he waited and followed me out and got in my car and wouldn't get out. And he was like, "This is so hot." This is so hot. Yeah. I was get out of my car, and he was like, he's not right for you. And I was like, "Who? You can't tell me that."
Yeah, so basically his wife was going on a live podcast talking about how she literally went and slept with the backup of his team to get after to simply annoy him. She said dated, but come on now, we're all adults here. That's about as low and as savage as you can get, and that's something that you, as a man, honestly, my personal opinion, look, everyone's different, everyone has their own walk in life, but this is something that I would not want people to know about if I chose the woman that did that to me and is now the mother of my children and has now, been my wife for several years. Well, first of all, that's extremely disrespectful to her to go on a show and put that out there. Whether she got his approval or not, that's not something. Listen, and I'm 100% judging here. I'm 100% putting myself in the shoes of Matthew Stafford as a man, as a husband, as a father. That's not a story I want to be, first of all, made light of as a comedic relief, how he was the sweet one and she was, hooking up with the bad boy backup, and he basically went in her car and begged her, and it's a really bad look. And I don't usually get too personal on a L, but this one felt necessary because they made it public. They made it, this is a thing that they wanted out there, and she felt the need to disclose this information about the relationship. So, it's a bad look for Matthew Stafford, man. It made him look really weak and soft and kind of lame, in my personal opinion. Anybody hooks up with my backup quarterback just to make me upset, it's on to the next. I mean, you're Matthew freaking Stafford. No offense to her. I know it's his wife, and all due respect to them and their relationship, but this is a lame look from one man to another, if I'm being honest. It's my opinion. I have that. So it is what it is. But Matthew Stafford, Lance's boy, do me a solid favor and hold this L.
Matt Stafford still making the Hall of Fame.
He's in the Hall of Lame, for being honest. Jesus Christ.
I have nothing to add.
No comment.
I'm really, really happy about this one.
Let's go.
Trevor and I have really, I would say, been really good at giving people the platform and opportunity to speak their minds when it comes to all things sports here. And I'm not even so much just on the show. I'm talking about on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you guys are at. And primarily on Facebook. I think it's because it's a group setting, so it's a little bit different where the chat is more lively. And I highly recommend you guys join it. something that has been consistent there has been this relishing and embellishing of the great Michael Jordan. And to forecast this correctly, to give you guys a preface, Trevor and I are 90s kids. We grew up idolizing Michael Jordan. We grew up loving Michael Jordan, worshiping Michael Jordan, had his posters, wore his shoes, wore his jersey, watched Space Jam every fucking day, watched his games. Like we were adamant. Yeah, we were adamant Michael Jordan fans. And then we saw LeBron James play basketball. And then we realized, well, that's the greatest basketball player I've ever seen. And I know that triggers a lot of people, and they want to give me the finals records and things like that. And you guys want to use facts to back up your claims. The word facts is really interesting because the facts came out this week. And would you know it? The great mythological creature, not the Jersey Devil, not the Bigfoot, the Yeti, not the Loch Ness Monster, but Myth J was exposed this week. So I don't know if you guys saw the article or not, but we're going to show you here. This is the first breakout here, Trevor. This is, and I want to give the guys proper respect and credit before I dive into this. So let's take that off the screen real quick. I apologize. Because Nick Wright, obviously, was frontlining this because he wanted to give the guy the credit he deserved as well, because this was him going all the way back. It's a well-known guy, too, that wrote this because he's a journalist, a writer for, oh, God, where is it? I have it right here. I know. We were just talking about it. Where you at? I'm sorry, guys.
Shout out Nick Wright too. Nick Wright's always on this stuff, man. He's
so Tom Habistro. I'm sorry, I finally got his name correct. Tom Habistro. He does a Substack for Yahoo Sports. He's an analytics insider for the Trailblazers. He does a lot of work, basically. He's a big hoop head. He came up with this article, and Trevor, let's put up the slide right here. So this is the first part. Breaking out his numbers. They're talking about when they went back and looked at all of Michael Jordan's numbers in his Defensive Player of the Year award season, which was an 88, 89, I believe. Going into his numbers into game location, we find that Jordan averaged a mind-boggling 4 steals and 2.1 blocks at home. But on the road, those numbers shrunk to a more normal rate of 2.1 steals and 1.2 blocks per game. Put simply, Jordan's steals and blocks nearly doubled at home compared to the road. To account for possible uneven playing time effects, we could look at per 36 minute numbers for a truer portrayal of the phenomenon. Jordan's combined blocks and steals numbers, stocks as they call it, were a whopping 82% higher at home games, 5.5 stocks per 36 minutes, than on the road at 3 flat. We look at this next scale here. Michael Jordan recorded the largest home road splits in Defensive Player of the Year history, with a 182% difference between them, as that chart shows you right there. I'm just going to give you guys a little second.
182%.
Would you look at it? Next slide. We compared notes again. We both saw only 2 legitimate steals by Michael Jordan. The box score credited him with 5. They're talking about a specific game. Mm-hmm. An excess of 3 steals added to his chart. To be precise, we saw 2 Jordan steals at best, but possibly only 1 when he poked the ball, chased it down, and saved it from going out of bounds before throwing it directly to the Hawks for a turnover. The other play, a transition deflection by Jordan's teammate Mike Brown, was recovered by Jordan. Could have gone either way. There were 3 steals unaccounted for. Final slide before we get to the video. An NBA spokesperson said the league had not verified Jordan's stats in the 1987-88 season and did not plan to do so. And then we have the video of Habestraw himself briefly talking about these errors he found when going back to this season.
So at the end of those 5 games, Vinny, there were 23 steals in the box score in those 5 games for Michael Jordan. And by watching the game independently, the scorekeeper and we saw 8 steals for Michael Jordan in those 5 games, 1.6 per game. And that is 15 fewer than the box score said he had.
That's wild, man.
I don't want to bring him up just yet, but I'm going to. Because this is going to have to do with everything when it comes to everything legacy-wise. But just think about what are we talking about here right now? And it's so funny how quiet. And you guys notice my voice, I'm keeping my voice really low right now because that's how quiet the MJ truthers have been since all this came out, because you can't fight it. It's 100% the truth. They have the footage, and the stats were buffed and lied and inflated, made up to better Michael Jordan's chances of winning Defensive Player of the Year, because the year before he got all pissed off because he didn't win Defensive Player of the Year because he thought it's all about numbers. Miraculously, his numbers all of a sudden went up by 182% difference on home and road games. You're telling me there's no bias in that? There's even reports, and I can show you guys the actual reports of the statistician after Bulls games would come into the locker room, show Phil Jackson, show the coaching staff all the stats to verify that was okay with them, and then went to Michael Jordan, showed him, and said, hey, see, look, my MJ, I take care of you, man. See, I want you to know. It was almost like they were out of fear of making sure he knew that he was getting numbers that he did not deserve. It isn't just Michael either. There's now stories that are coming out about John Stockton getting assists that had no business going to John Stockton. The fact is, guys, this era as a whole was fraudulent, and the face of this era is being exposed. This isn't something I'm celebrating. This makes me sick to my stomach, because this is the history that I grew up watching, and it's now being shown as a sham, and it's a mockery to the sport we all love, or at least most of us still love, basketball. Now I'm going to bring him up. Because could you imagine if this happened with LeBron James?
Boy, in the social media era?
Could you imagine if they went back at 04, 05, or 06 and said they found out that they made up stats for LeBron James? You guys would crucify this man unlike anything we've ever seen from the people that already do so. And they would never let that go. But you know what's funny? The dudes that are on the payroll, the MJ payroll, like Stephen A. Smith, like Michael Wilbon, like Rick Bucher.
Bucher, yeah.
Go check their Twitter accounts real quick. Go check any social media platform right now they have, and tell me what you find. It's a consistent trend. You know what it is? Not one of them have talked about this, and this has been out now for 3 days. 3 whole days about the great Michael Jordan. All 3 of these guys call him the GOAT without any hesitation. They all said no matter what, he's the GOAT. Not one person of those 3 have mentioned one thing about this story. And Habistro is one of the best journalists in the business. So they're not going to sit here and try to go at him and say that what he's making this up. It's not, guys. It's right in front of us.
Yeah, it's not hogwash, Mr. James T. Kirk.
It's not hogwash. You can find all this on your own. Go watch Habistro's Go watch the interviews. Go look I just show you snippets of it. I'm giving you guys a taste of it because it's the end of our show. But you can go and look at this yourself. This is 100% accurate. Unlike the stats of the 87-88 season for Michael Jordan.
Yeah, and the worst part about all this is it's not going to change anybody's minds.
No, because
the people that claim that he's the GOAT are just so doubled down on their cognitive dissonance that Jordan is burnt into the brain as the GOAT, and they can't change them. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter if Luka ends with the greatest statistics of all time and wins 7 championships. Jordan's going to continue to be the GOAT in these people's minds.
And here's the thing.
He can't change their minds.
Even if that's what you want to say still, that's fine. If you still think after seeing this that he's the GOAT, that's fine. My point in this is not to bring up who's the GOAT.
There's several conspiracies.
My point is, guys, is that there is now a true tarnishment on Michael Jordan's career.
This isn't the only one. The the timing of the retirements were odd. I mean, him basically being banned from the league for gambling purposes. Like let's be real right now. This isn't the only one.
And the big again, you're talking about everybody used that against LeBron James in the GOAT conversation if you want to have it.
Yeah, y'all
About
leave him.
Michael's the only dude to win the scoring title and the Defensive Player of the Year award in the same season. Guys, this is proving to you that he was not deserving of the Defensive Player of the Year award, while subsequently in 2013, the media kept LeBron from winning the Defensive Player of the Year award. Gave it to Marc Gasol. Go look at
Great
the votes.
player, but come on now.
Go look at the votes, guys. LeBron was the consensus Defensive Player of the Year. They gave it to Marc Gasol.
Yeah.
We know what's happening here, guys. Why do you think after LeBron won his 4th MVP at the age of 28 that he never won another one? You're telling me right now after the age of 28, LeBron never had another MVP season? You're out of your mind. He's had at least 6.
Yeah, and someone won a unanimous one over him, which was Steph Curry.
We now
Unanimous
know.
was wild, bro.
We now know what's happening. It is now proven. It is proven that this is what's going on. That they're keeping the guy they want at the top protected. That's why Mill Wilbon, Stephen A., Legler, Tim Legler, Rick Bucher, none of these guys are talking about this because they can't. There's nothing they can do. They can't refute it. Guys, if this was hogwash, if you believe it's hogwash, why isn't Stephen A. coming out and dismantled it? You know Stephen A. would love nothing more than to come out here and put this thing to bed and shit all over it. Why hasn't he? Why hasn't anybody said a word about it and said this isn't true? Because they know it is, guys. Your boy got caught. They inflated his numbers. They cheated. This is a cheat. And you know you'd be using the same energy, guys, if it was LeBron James that was benefiting off of it. But here's the thing. LeBron didn't have to. He still went and got his 40,000 points, his 10,000+ rebounds, his 10,000+ assists. He didn't have to cheat his numbers. Keep the awards away from him. Who gives a shit? He's still the greatest player who's ever lived. And that, for that fact, Michael Jordan and all the people that want to keep these falsehoods intact to protect the nostalgia that makes them feel all warm and cozy at night, do me a solid and
hold this out. It's okay with being number 2, man. It's okay. It's okay to be
Kareem's
number two on the list.
Kareem's number 2.
MJ's my number 2, but yeah.
This has been a fun show because we had awesome times with our people in the chat. I'm sure that the chat's just now getting started now that we just set it on fire. But that's the fun thing about the show, Trevor, is it never really stops. It just kind of keeps rolling into the next week. So you guys have at it. That's all I needed to say about this. You guys now know where we stand on a lot of things, including
talk among yourselves,
including the rugby player LRZ that's on the Chiefs. We'll see if this guy makes the team. Trevor, Marcus, they think there's a real chance here. I'm a little bit more on the skeptical side of things, but I'm willing to be proven wrong, and I hope that this story pans out because I think it would be awesome as hell to see this thing become what I think some people hope it to be.
Yeah.
In the meantime, let's just wait this out, man. Let's see how this goes because I think it's going to be fun no matter what. The Chiefs have a real chance of three-peating, and that is what I'm focusing on the most. Get the right guys on this roster to help you win a 3rd straight Super Bowl. And if that happens, this Chiefs team, something we're going to talk about next week, is going to be putting themselves in a category of their own. And we're going to be talking about it, and I hope you guys are ready because next week, I'm going to be talking. I think, Trevor, you'll be off the show next week. Trevor and his kids got some fun stuff going on. I'm going to be talking to you guys about dynasties, about where the Chiefs currently rank right now in all-time NFL dynasties and where I think they will rank if and when they win this 3rd straight Super Bowl championship. I hope you guys are ready for that because I'm already ready for that. I wanted to talk about it this week. Had to hold off. We got some things going on in our family today that we had to get to. Marcus Dasher's already on the show, and shout out to him, by the way. Great things to get Chief Concerns for what they do. Keep it rolling over there, guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Go follow their work as well. Say it at the top. Say it at the bottom of every single show. Go to youtube.com. Hit the Spoken Podcast. Like, subscribe, share, notify, all that stuff. We greatly appreciate every time you guys do that. But get in the comments every single week, man. We love it when we hear back from you guys. It's what makes the show what it is. So remember that every single week as we do this. So for that, for Trevor Twidwell, for the great Clay Winther that puts those together on the back end of things, for the great Marcus Dash from Chief Concerns, and for Starcade Media, the umbrella company that helps us promote this show as much as they do, I'm Lance Twidwell. Spoken Podcast, episode 272 is done, finished, and finito. And until we're back here in 1 week's time, you can see us on Tuesday as well, Arrowhead Allies. But next week, next Saturday, episode 273. Till then, we out of this bitch.
Later.
Browns go.